Jamaican national Jean Brown comes to the United States looking for the American dream and thinks she finds it when she meets a successful businessman.
This woman came from a tiny little hamlet in Jamaica and wound up making $1 million a month.
But that's nothing compared to the price Jean pays to show she can be just as ruthless as her man.
Carl and Jean together was a deadly combination.
And later, Rochester, New York single mother Natalie Johnson falls hard for a man with a criminal past.
Get out of the car.
Jarrell hung around a rough crowd. He was known to be the instigator of the group.
And when his need for cash pushes him back to what he knows, he makes sure to take Natalie along with him.
They wrapped her up in a carpet, put her in the blue bin, and dumped her in a ravine.
Natalie went along with Jarrell to the very end, because at some point along the way, the kindness factor turned into a monster factor as well.
The money!
Hoping to escape poverty, 24-year-old Jamaican national Jean Brown comes to the United States in search of a better life and a way to provide for her family.
She left behind her mother, sister, 3 children, a son and 2 daughters.
She figures that her life and the life for her children is going to be better if she can make some money.
Desperate to provide for her family back home, Jean and her determination land in Miami, Florida, penniless and with no job prospects.
When she even came to the U.S. from Jamaica, Jean worked all kind of dead-end jobs. Nothing really came together for her. She struggled a bit.
But she finds refuge in Miami's Jamaican community, and the camaraderie only strengthens her resolve.
When people are in a surrounding or some sort of a town where they're not a native of that particular place, they find solace in someone who has a similar origin or background.
Jean eventually lands a position as a dispatcher for a local trucking company.
The job of dispatcher is to keep track of where the trucks are, take orders from customers, and make sure that things are delivered as required.
It's a good job, but Jean isn't making anywhere near the money she hopes and has very little to send back to her family in Jamaica.
Problem with chasing a dream is that it is just that, a dream. A lot of people are running away from poverty or a bad relationship, looking for new opportunities, but a lot of times they don't have a coherent plan as to how to achieve the things that they really want, what it is that they really want to achieve.
Still, she manages to take advantage of Miami's nightlife.
In the early 90s, Miami was the place. I mean, it was fun, there were clubs, it was just an untapped land where anything goes, and people were doing very well for themselves.
And it's at one of the clubs where Jean meets fellow Jamaican Carl Smith.
He's good looking, he takes an interest in her, he's got that thing that attracts people of like minds.
Okay, so what do you do for a living?
And he's got another thing that Jean finds irresistible: money.
He was a drug dealer, marijuana. He was making fistful of cash, and that was very attractive to her.
Jean and Carl become inseparable as she quickly becomes Carl's partner in love and crime.
Carl told her about the drug business, told her about his connections in Mexico and how they'd be able to get large volumes of marijuana at low prices.
Jean wasn't your typical girlfriend. Jean was looking to make money, and make money any way necessary and any way possible.
Her ambition, combined with her direct line to independent truckers, gives birth to an idea for a devious plan. The two decide to combine their resources and start a trucking company as a way to ship large amounts of marijuana from Mexico to the East Coast.
Jean was very enthusiastic about that. She saw that as an opportunity to get rich quick.
Carl is all for it, but insists they relocate to Baltimore for better distribution to the Northeast corridor.
Carl's contacts would bring the drugs across the border from Mexico. Jean's truckers would pick it up in Arizona and bring it here to Baltimore. And once it arrived in Baltimore, they would sell it.
They were able to move product to New York much more quickly. They were able to get into Pittsburgh much more quickly.
In addition, Charm City's hunger for illegal substances makes it ripe with opportunity.
Baltimore is a city with a major drug problem. There are a lot of drug dealers, a lot of drug users. And so if you're able to get large quantities of marijuana, the dealers figure out who they are and flock to them.
Jean is a very headstrong woman. She wanted to be with Carl, and she knew that she would do whatever she had to do by any means necessary in order to be with him.
Just a few months later, the business model is underway.
They use full-size 18-wheeler trucks that would carry a lot of merchandise, and they'd be able to conceal the marijuana in with the merchandise, and then they could easily conceal the cash on the way back.
And within 6 months, they're making 7 figures.
This woman came from a tiny little hamlet in Jamaica and wound up making at least $1 million a month. She had a palatial estate in Florida. She had land in Jamaica, and she ran a pretty well-oiled business. That's the American dream.
But for Jean, it's not enough. She also wants to prove to Carl that she belongs by his side.
It's already a man's world, but to be a woman and to rise to the top, you had to do stuff that most men would be afraid of.
Jean will do everything in her power to keep Carl, to please Carl, and to do anything it takes to achieve success along with him.
Even if that means putting one of them in an early grave.
This was a driven woman who decided what she was going to do, and nobody was going to stand in her way.
After joining forces with fellow Jamaican Carl Smith, Jean Brown launches a successful drug operation in Baltimore, Maryland.
So things are going well. I mean, from Mexico to Baltimore and all stops in between, money is flowing, drugs are flowing. They're doing about $1 million worth of business a month. They're bringing in whatever they want, and nobody suspects a thing.
And Jean and Carl want to keep it that way.
One of the main challenges for drug dealers is what to do with all the money, because they're generating tremendous volumes of currency and they can't put it in a bank. And so they need to find ways to transport these large volumes of currency out of the country.
A prospect that keeps Jean in regular contact with her family in Jamaica.
She sent the money to Jamaica to be laundered. She's given this money to her family, and they're investing it in real estate for her. So her kids back in Jamaica are being provided for, her family back in Jamaica is being provided for, and she's living in the lap of luxury.
But transporting large bundles of cash out of the country is almost as risky as the drug trade itself.
American regulations prohibit people from carrying more than $10,000 unless they declare it. And Jean's goal was to avoid telling authorities either in the United States or in Jamaica.
Jean and Carl enlist the help of another Jamaican associate named Michael Knight.
Michael Knight was a money courier. Michael's job was to transport money from Baltimore to Jamaica.
Do not let me down.
Yes, sir. Jean's instructions to Michael were to carry that money secretly, not to acknowledge to American authorities that he had it, and not to tell anybody in Jamaica that he was bringing it in.
For the next several years, all goes well. But running a multi-million-dollar drug ring in a male-dominated world takes a heavy hand. Having plenty to prove to her man and herself, Jean quickly takes the lead and shows she's not to be trifled with.
Jean had a reputation for being both physically and verbally abusive. And so if people crossed her, she would let them know, sometimes very aggressively.
Jean was nobody's plaything. She was not a girlfriend. She was not a piece of fun to be had. She was an equal, at least, and a superior to a bunch. She had to make that known. She did make that known.
In Carl, Jean sees someone who's around the same age as she is. He's a risk taker and he's successful at it, just as she is.
Hey!
When one of their employees disrespects Carl, Jean makes a brutal example of her.
Liar!
There was one incident where she threw boiling hot water on one of her employees that Jean was angry with. The employee was holding her child at the time.
Jean and Carl had a lot in common. Both of them had very good business acumen, but she was the hardline boss He was the guy who ran the day-to-day operations and kept all the contacts going. For all things considered, this was a very strong combination, and they were like a dynamic duo, all things considered.
But as merciless as Jean may be at work, at home, it's a different story.
On the business side, she was ruthless, violent. No one crossed her. When it comes to her family, they loved her. They thought of her as a good support to her partner, Carl. I mean, you're talking about the complete polar opposite to what those in the organization saw.
As Jean and Carl's business grows, so does their Baltimore household.
They became closer. They loved each other even more, to the point Jean had a baby. And now you have this new family, a growing family, a business that is, even though it was illegal, it was highly successful for them.
They had at least a solid decade of just smooth sailing. Bada bing, bada boom, money in, drugs out, money in, drugs out, no problem, life's good. And then trouble and purloined paradise.
Cash mule Michael Knight is making his monthly trip to Jamaica with suitcases of cash. A trip he has made countless times. But this time, he catches the eye of a vigilant Jamaican customs agent.
On this one occasion, Michael was caught and arrested in Jamaica with $565,000 in cash.
As the authorities were questioning Michael about this more than $500,000 he has on him, that's when Michael gave up Jean and Carl. He said this money came from drug sales.
Jamaican authorities informed their U.S. counterparts about Jean Brown and Carl Smith's organization.
And at that point, authorities decided to start looking into how extensive this drug ring is.
At the United States' request, Jamaican officials released Michael Knight as not to raise suspicion with Jean and Carl. He returns to Baltimore and tells his employers the money was seized. But, as instructed by them, he refused to claim it.
Jean, who says, cost of doing business, lost $500,000, okay.
Drug organizations recognize that from time to time, their drugs are going to be intercepted. From time to time, their money's going to be intercepted.
You know what? Just go.
Even though the money was missing, Jean had no reason not to trust Michael Knight. After all, Carl trusted him. But more than anything else, this was a hard-line boss. I mean, she was ruthless. And so she felt that she had Michael Knight under her thumb. Everyone was afraid of her, including Michael Knight. Why would he lie to her?
But almost a year to the day after costing Jean and Carl $500,000, Michael comes up short again.
$250,000 short.
Jean had entrusted Michael with $1 million that she wanted him to hold, and he only returned $750,000. So Jean wanted to find that missing $250,000.
When Jean confronts Michael about the missing cash, Michael refuses to tell her what happened to it.
If a courier is caught by law enforcement takes the money. That's an explanation that the drug dealers can accept. And so when Michael came up short and had no explanation, that really angered Jean.
Carl asks Jean to take care of Michael, and she takes her payback to a gruesome extreme.
If Carl wanted something done, Jean made it happen. Carl didn't have to worry about anything. Carl's job was actually easy. Jean was the one who carried out Carl's bidding. So Michael was kidnapped, just swiped off the streets of Baltimore, out of nowhere. It was Jean's enforcers. They take him outside of the city to an area called White Marsh, take him to an apartment there.
Carl Smith is there. Couple goons are there. Jean is running this. She has Michael Knight tied up with a phone cord.
Jean is interrogating him. Where's my money? Where's my $250,000? And she wasn't getting any answer, any satisfactory answer.
That's when Jean's anger turns to uncontrollable rage.
She's wailing on him with a cell phone. Her goons were standing by while she beat this man so severely she knocked his eyeball back inside its socket.
Jean decides to take the lead on this because Michael has disrespected her and disrespected Carl, and she's not gonna let him get away with this.
And the carnage is only just beginning.
Jean said, if he doesn't tell us where the money is, we'll just have to kill him.
Jean orders her henchmen, Peter Blake and Hubert Downer, to take Michael into the bathroom.
She said, finish him.
And later, in New York State, single mother Natalie Johnson will also look to a new man to be her provider. And like Jean Brown, she'll go from bystander to killer.
Jarrell knew the quickest way to make money was to take advantage of a senior, and he knew a senior, and he took advantage of her.
She took his orders, no questions asked.
In Baltimore, Maryland, Jean Brown is dealing with an employee who she believes stole $250,000 from her and her partner in love and business, Carl Smith.
Jean demanded loyalty because this was business. This was the foundation of her relationship with Carl.
Despite the brutal beating, Michael Knight still refuses to say where the missing money went.
So Peter and Hubert put Michael in the bathtub and stabbed him repeatedly until he was dead.
The human mind can rationalize anything. And this particular case, Jean felt that she wasn't a criminal, she wasn't a killer. She was just protecting her interests, protecting her relationship, and protecting her man.
She was at her worst with him, and she was becoming more of a hardened criminal than her partner.
With Michael Knight dead, Jean orders her men to get rid of the body. No evidence left behind.
Over about 2 days, with power saws, they dismember the body. They pack up pieces and dispose of the body around Baltimore County in a number of places. The body's never been recovered.
Jean and Carl believe they've gotten away with murder. But just in case, they decide to lay low in Miami, Florida. Little do they know, Maryland investigators are already onto them, and a missing persons report filed for Michael Knight only adds fuel to the fire.
After about 4 or 5 days, his sister wound up calling Baltimore area police to say, I need to file a missing persons report. Nobody can find my brother. The Baltimore police look into it.
And it isn't just Baltimore police.
In the meantime, federal law enforcement was also looking for Michael Knight because the Jean Brown organization was now on the federal radar.
Hoping to put pressure on Jean Brown, investigators track her and Carl down in Florida.
And then, surprise, surprise, here comes the detectives wanted to know what Jean knew about Michael. The detectives asked Jean, what do you know about Michael Knight? What's your connection to him? She denies everything. But at that point, she gets nervous.
Jean and Carl realized after the police came down to Florida that the heat was on, and so they left and went to Mexico.
But once in Mexico, Jean realizes more than the scenery has changed.
Between the Fed looking at them, between detectives back in Maryland looking at them, their relationship goes through a rocky road. There's trouble in their relationship.
I called the shots.
Carl was done. He was a multimillionaire. What more did he need?
I don't work for you, okay?
He wasn't happy being with Jean either. He let her know this.
Carl's not happy. He starts searching Mexico for love, and he finds it.
He takes off and doesn't look back.
And Jean said then, oh no, you don't leave Jean Brown.
But it goes beyond a lover's betrayal. Jean worries that if she loses Carl, his Mexican cartel connection goes with him.
Jean didn't want to let that happen. She had a very successful and very lucrative marijuana business, and she wanted to keep it going.
So she goes to the Mexican connections. Now keep in mind, these are the same connections Carl introduced her to not too long ago.
Jean saw this as the ultimate betrayal. This is a woman who saw everything as her and Carl, just the ultimate relationship. And now, if he's not with her, well, in her mind, he's against her.
And the next day, Carl is mysteriously assassinated on a lone Mexican highway.
And what wound up happening is that Carl Smith and his new paramour were in a car, and goons shot Carl Smith dead in front of his girlfriend. She got shot 4 or 5 times through the arm, and they left her for dead. She wound up living. Jean Brown made her point.
The next day, Jean returns to Miami to run her drug empire, which is now hers and hers alone. But the FBI has been busy while she was away.
They connected with her associates, and one by one, they coughed up Jean Brown without hesitation. And by the time Jean gets back to the United States, the feds had the case that they needed against her, not just for the drug ring, but for Michael Knight's murder.
She's arrested for numerous drug activities and for the first-degree murder of Michael Knight.
She went to trial and was convicted of the conspiracy to engage in murder, kidnapping, drug distribution, and racketeering.
15 years after coming to America, Jean Brown is sentenced to life in prison.
Well, I think Jean has learned that crime doesn't pay. Ultimately, you're going to get caught. The drug business is a business with no future.
At the end of the day, they started with nothing, she ended with nothing.
She's probably lamenting, if anything, that the reason for it all is gone. She can't provide for her family in Jamaica. Her children don't have a mother, and everything she worked for has been seized. So, was it worth it? Probably not.
Sometimes two people don't bring the best out of each other, and that was definitely the case with Jean and Carl.
Jean Brown's love for her man led to a life lived larger than a mythical movie crime lord. In New York, the lengths to which Natalie Johnson will go to please her man will be on a far different scale, yet lead her to the same end. Life starts out on the straight and narrow for Natalie Johnson in a modest rental home in the Great Lakes city of Rochester, New York.
Natalie grew up with 2 parents in the home. She was well taken care of, so she had all the things that she wanted, although they weren't very rich.
As a teenager, she studies hard.
Her parents encouraged her, and they backed her going to college, and she started to study nursing, and she earned a certificate in nursing.
She gets a good job in a nursing home, but at the age of 22, she hits a snag.
She became pregnant. The relationship died. So she remained with her parents. They helped raise the child. They assisted her because they believed in her dream. So they did all they could to help her succeed.
She worked hard. She was trying to better herself.
But life isn't all work and no play for Natalie. Far from it. She enjoys her fair share of relationships.
She was pretty sexually active. She wasn't exactly the most attractive girl, but she had her way finding men into her life. Kind of like the attention.
But by the age of 26, Natalie is looking for more than sex. She wants love, and she's about to find it, with some deadly strings attached.
He knew what he was looking for in terms of being a predator. Natalie fit the bill. When she became involved with him, it just snowballed out of control.
In Rochester, New York, 26-year-old single mother Natalie Johnson spends her days working at an assisted living facility and her nights out with friends, playing the field.
Natalie was kind of a fast girl. She kind of liked the attention.
During one such night out, she meets handsome charmer Jarrell Henry.
He was the type of person that was very smooth and very dangerous. And I believe that the smooth came before the danger.
But while 27-year-old Jarrell Henry is saying all the right things, there's one thing she can't help but notice: a police GPS tracking device.
Jarrell had committed a violent carjacking, and he was sent away for 10 years. So an ankle bracelet, that GPS was put on him as a condition of his parole.
He had a gun. I mean, he used the gun in terms of intimidating the victim into letting him take their car.
Despite his record, Natalie finds herself smitten with Jarrell's charm.
Jarrell showed her attention, which she was craving for, apparently. She slept with him, and that's the beginning of their relationship.
Even though Natalie was ambitious and outgoing, this is a woman who suffered with poor self-esteem. So when a good-looking guy presents himself to her and her friends and chooses her over her girlfriends, well, she's taken by it hook, line, and sinker.
Natalie not only falls deeply in love with Jarrell, she also thinks he is the perfect father for her daughter.
Natalie was looking for someone to care for her child. And when she met Jarrell, she felt that he could fill those shoes.
And less than 2 weeks after their first night together, Jarrell leaves the home he shares with his grandparents.
Jarrell was adopted by his grandparents at probably the age of 5 and lived right there on Hazelwood Terrace. So often with grandparents who take over raising their children's children, when they become young adults, they pretty much run the household.
But none of the red flags stop Natalie. She invites him to move in with her, her parents, and her now 4-year-old daughter.
She was madly in love with him, and the parents thought, well, maybe this is someone for her, you know, a lasting relationship.
He got along very well with her daughter. They got along extremely well. They had a good rapport. She saw that. She loved it, and she wanted to continue that.
But while Jarrell may play the role of father figure, there's one crucial way in which he can't contribute to the household.
Jarrell had a terrible time finding a job due to the fact that he had a criminal record.
If you have a record, it's very difficult to get hired. So that causes a great deal of frustration.
To not be able to get a job, to not be able to make money, and we're talking about the male ego, so those sorts of things are so important. To not have those things, that's got to be emasculating, especially to a young man.
Jarrell had nothing to offer Natalie other than the fact of companionship and making her feel good.
He was looking for some way to make money, to get money, fast.
And despite the fact that he's on parole, he turns to the only thing he knows.
Instead of getting a job like everyone else does, he just decided that his job was to rob.
Natalie really felt like she needed him, so in order to keep him, she would do anything that he asked her to do.
Jarrell tells Natalie he has the perfect robbery target in mind, his grandparents' next-door neighbor, 73-year-old Edlin Chun.
Edline was originally from the Big Island of Hawaii. She came to Rochester and she became an adjunct professor at RIT. And she was there for 20 years.
She was involved in 13 different charities. Edlin was a kind and generous and giving person.
But none of this matters to Jarrell, who only sees Edlin as a ticket to instant money.
A couple things made her a good target. One, her age. Number two is that the perception is that because she was possibly Asian, that she had cash, large sums of money in the home or available to her.
After some minor hesitation, Jarrell convinces Natalie to help him.
The dream of a better life is a driving force for Natalie. So even if it means going along with some of the nefarious plans of Jarrell, well, she's willing to do it.
One early morning, soon after telling Natalie about his terrible plan, Jarrell decides the day has come to put his plan in motion. He rouses Natalie out of her sleep and asks her to drive him to his old neighborhood.
Jarrell went to Edline's home with Natalie. He had a basket of fruit to apparently offer her.
Under the guise of wanting to introduce his girlfriend to an old neighbor, Jarrell asks Edlin if he and Natalie can come inside.
Edline had known Jarrell since he was a little boy. She knew that he was in and out of trouble, so she was a little leery.
And that's when he just pushed her back and knocked her over.
Jarrell and Natalie bound her up with the duct tape. They duct taped her ankles, duct taped her wrist, and they basically interrogated her relative to what was in the house that they could take, whether it was cash, whether it was jewelry.
Not getting the answers he wants, Jarrell's desperation skyrockets. And within minutes, things go from bad to worse. In Rochester, New York, Natalie Johnson and her ex-con lover Jarrell Henry, desperate for easy money, decide to rob Jarrell's childhood neighbor, 73-year-old Edlin Chun.
The fact that she was an older female living by herself, she was very vulnerable.
Where's the money?
The moment he walks into the house, Natalie knows this isn't the Jarrell she once knew. This is a guy who's in charge, who's going to do whatever he has to do And now she's so scared that she will follow whatever commands he gives.
After knocking Edlin down, the pair gets to work implementing their plan.
While Jarrell was restraining Edline, he told Natalie to search and see what she could find. I think she found some jewelry or something like that, but I guess not everything that he wanted or everything that he thought was there.
There's someone in this house. Where are they?
Natalie is a caretaker, and so she really believes that once Jarrell does what he has to do, then they're just going to leave and everything will be okay.
Jarrell went searching. He went everywhere, and he also went up into the attic and apparently found a .22 caliber rifle.
Edlin's house had been broken into twice, and so a friend of hers gave her a rifle to keep loaded in the house. And of course, there's no way she would have ever lifted that rifle to hurt anyone. So she put it up in the attic.
In another room, Natalie finds their biggest score, Edlin's checkbook.
You're gonna sign each and every one.
Jarrell demanded at gunpoint that she sign checks made out to them so that they could cash them.
Edline was very upset. You can imagine how upset she was and how frantic she was. Natalie was trying to calm her down.
She was comforting her and saying, oh, everything's gonna be okay.
At least that's what Natalie hopes, until Edlin mouths off to Jarrell.
As soon as I can, I'm going to the police.
Adeline said something to set him off. She said, the moment I can go to the police, I will.
He did what he felt he had to do to silence her.
Jarrell shot Edlin twice in the head. One of the shots went through here, and went through here to disfigure her jaw.
Jarrell killed this woman in front of Natalie, but she didn't call the police. She probably was thinking, well, if she says anything about this is going to put her man behind bars, so she's not going to be with him anymore. So she was totally in concert with him.
She couldn't at that point in time say, I'm no longer in, because now she becomes a witness and she would have to be dealt with in the same way.
Natalie sees the man she loves, the man who she feels could be a father to her daughter, actually kill someone. So now, in her mind, in her body, she just goes totally numb.
She is frozen with fear, while Jarrell gets to work covering their tracks.
They were very careful about making sure that they cleaned up behind themselves. They used plastic gloves. They were pretty sure that no one saw them come in and out of her residence. So they were very sure that they had done a good job.
He's already got plans for the almost $20,000 in cash from the pre-signed checks.
Jarrell calls up two friends. He offers them $10,000 to help them dispose of the body.
They wrapped her up in a blanket, and they had put her body into this plastic bin.
And eventually what they did was they took the bin to Tryon Park, which is a kind of remote area in Rochester with a lot of ravines.
Once there, the gang dumps Edlin's lifeless body like a piece of garbage.
And what had happened was that she had come out of the bin. The bin had stopped on a ledge, and her body had ended up down below. After that, they left.
Jarrell then paid off his friends with one of those checks.
Cash this check immediately.
Jarrell and his friends part ways, and he and Natalie return home as if nothing had happened.
No one saw anything.
Natalie is really stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's nothing that she can do about this right now. Bottom line is, if he goes down, she goes down. And then she loses her dream. She loses her man. She loses her freedom.
The next night, Natalie goes to work at the nursing home, while Jarrell returns to his old neighborhood and steals Edlin's car. Little do they know that 3 days after their crime, workers in Tryon Park find Edlin's lifeless body and call the police.
She was wearing a sweatshirt that had Rochester Works over the front. So they went to that business and asked who might have that sweatshirt. They said there was board members only who were given those sweatshirts. They had a photograph of Edlin at the scene of where she was dumped, and one of the employees there identified her as Edlin. They were able to determine where she lived based on their information.
Looked at the house. They couldn't figure out, why in the world would someone kill this RIT professor who was so instrumental in helping people in the community. They did notice that her car was missing, so obviously they put out a bulletin to be on the lookout for her car.
Jarrell and Natalie think they've covered their tracks, but Jarrell's impulsivity will be their ultimate undoing.
He was dead set on committing this crime and totally forgot that he was being tracked every inch of the way.
26-year-old Natalie Johnson and her boyfriend of 2 weeks, Jarrell Henry, believe they've gotten away with the murder of 73-year-old Edlin Chun in Rochester, New York.
It's amazing to me that someone, after doing such a horrific act of murder, could just go back to their home and pretend nothing happened.
After the crime, Natalie felt more attached to Jarrell. After going through this heinous crime from the beginning to the end, she felt even closer to him and felt more attached to him because they had done this together.
But police are hot on their trail.
What they didn't realize was once they dumped her body down this ravine, her body came out the bend and her body was exposed.
As the chief of police, I had 15 to 20 people come to my office demanding that we solve this crime due to the fact that they wanted to see justice brought to Edlin.
In addition to putting out an APB for Edlin's car, they go door to door, asking if anyone saw or heard anything unusual over the past few days.
In doing a neighborhood check, they were able to determine that one of the neighbors was Jarrell. They made the determination that he had just been released from prison and was on parole and had been released to that house at next door.
Police decide to check Jarrell's tracking device, something he seemed to forget all about.
And the way that they knew that he was involved in this whole thing was that ankle bracelet, that GPS. It tied him to Edline's home. It tied him to Tryon Park.
And the same GPS device that is used to tie him to the murder also leads police right to Jarrell's whereabouts the next night.
Jarrell was arrested driving Edline's car. He had her cell phone, he had $10,000 in cash, and even the .22 caliber rifle.
Jarrell was charged with murder 1 because with depraved indifference to another person's life, he took that life.
He doesn't rat out Natalie, and she might have gotten away with murder, except she told a friend about her role, and he goes straight to the police. Days later, she's picked up by authorities and booked.
Natalie lost a great love, Jarrell, and she knows that if she goes to jail, she's gonna lose her daughter too. So she's gonna say whatever she has to say in order to stay out of jail.
Natalie was charged with murder 2nd, which means that she was present when a person not involved in the crime was killed.
Facing life in prison, she's offered a plea bargain, a shorter sentence if she testifies against Jarrell Henry. But she rejects it.
Natalie would not turn on Jarrell. She would not be a witness against him. She was still standing by her man.
But Natalie's insistence to stand by her man only results in her own trial 9 months later.
Natalie claims she was sleeping the whole time of the crime.
The jury doesn't buy her story, and Natalie Johnson is sentenced to 25 years to life.
One way that they were able to connect Natalie to the crime was that they found the gloves that were used in the commission of the crime in her car. So they were able to trace it and tie her into the whole thing.
During sentencing, she was able to give a statement, and she said that she was the victim and that her child would be a victim and that she would be away from her daughter. Her daughter would grow up without a mother. But she never said that she was a victim of Jarrell's.
In a separate trial, Jarrell Henry is found guilty of murder in the first degree and receives a life sentence.
Prior to being involved in this incident, Natalie was somebody who took serious efforts to have a good life, to have a good employment, to take care of her young daughter. I think once she became involved with him, they became involved in a circumstance that just snowballed out of control.
People wonder, someone like Natalie, who seems so normal, how she can fall so fast and so hard for a guy wearing an ankle bracelet.
The impact that Jarrell Henry had on Natalie Johnson's life was so severe. She went from a caring, loving person and loving mother to a monster.
Natalie just kind of surrendered herself for her man, and now she's suffering the consequences.
Atlanta teenager Felicia Blakely is counting on her new boyfriend to make all her dreams come true.
He was giving her this sort of fantasy. We're gonna go off somewhere to some other city and get a whole new start.
But Felicia learns the price she has to pay for his love is murder.
She was caught up in a mess that she'll never be able to reverse.
And in sunny San Bernardino, California, 19-year-old Keisha Smith goes all out to impress her hustler boyfriend.
In his mind, they were like Bonnie and Clyde, and she was down for the ride.
And to keep him around, Keisha dedicates her entire world to pleasing him.
It was a big decision for her to make if she was going to carry out these illegal activities.
She was willing to sacrifice herself and her life to protect her man, and she did.
By the time she's 16 years old, Jacksonville teen Felicia Blakely's had her fair share of troubles.
Felicia's father wasn't around. I had left him due to the fact that he started stealing and doing drugs, and I didn't want her or myself to be a part of that. So I left there, lived with my mom for a little while.
With her mother busy working to support the family, her grandmother takes over most of the parenting duties. The result is a rocky mother-daughter relationship until her mom makes a career move out of state.
Her mother moved to Atlanta for a job, and Felicia followed her here to Atlanta trying to build a relationship with her mother.
But the change of scenery doesn't seem to help. And after a month of living in the Peach State, Felicia and her mom are back at each other's throats.
She basically quit going to school, dropped out. That's when she really started changing, started being in the streets.
I didn't raise you like that.
And me and her were arguing pretty much every day.
Felicia's focus turns to making money.
She had a cousin who worked as an exotic dancer, a stripper up here in Atlanta, who persuaded Felicia that that might be a good life plan, that she should start dancing.
Despite being a minor, Felicia wastes no time finding work at a local strip club.
In Atlanta, you're required to have a permit establishing that you're an adult. She was dancing in some of those clubs without a permit, but fairly quickly secured a permit with fake identification papers.
What starts as a money-making venture soon evolves into something more.
Felicia was young and impressionable, so by stripping, in her mind, she was getting all sorts of attention from men, and it lifted her self-esteem, and it gave her validation.
But when Felicia's mother finds out, she's less than thrilled with her daughter's new path in life.
They had flyers that they were putting out. Felicia's pictures were on the flyer, and I found them. And it's just upsetting to find out that way.
When Betty confronts her, she insists that she has no intention of quitting.
Felicia said that in the state of Georgia, when you're 16, you're grown, and that gave her the right to strip because she considered an adult. So she ran away.
Felicia puts herself up at an extended stay hotel where many of the other girls from the club live.
Many young women who go into adult entertainment find that there is no exit. They become addicted to the money, to the attention, and it becomes a life where they get locked in because eventually they become abused in that industry.
I called legal aid trying to see what I could do. They said I could go downtown and file an unruly child thing where if anything happened, I wouldn't be in trouble, but I didn't want to do that. You know, I thought I could get her back.
Now out of the house and making her own money, Felicia falls hard for a DJ at another club.
In her mind, I think it was a real relationship, someone she cared about, and she thought he cared about her. But this DJ was stashing her in this motel for basically sex at his convenience. Felicia was 16 and young and unsophisticated. He was taking advantage of her.
A month after they start dating, Felicia finds out she's pregnant. But when she tells her new love, she doesn't get the reaction she's hoping for.
He did not want anything to do with Felicia or the baby, and he didn't stick around.
This is pretty devastating for Felicia. She's emotionally wounded, plus She's got a pregnancy to deal with on her own.
After 3 months away from home, Felicia moves back in with her mother. And finally, she gets the reaction she's been hoping for.
I was happy when I found out I was going to be a grandmother. I hoped that she would stop dancing, stripping. I thought it might bring her back to normalcy. I really did.
But Felicia has no plans of giving up her new life.
Felicia knew she had to provide for her and her child, so she continued to strip even while pregnant.
Desperate to make as much money as she can before the baby comes, the 6-month pregnant teen takes an opportunity to talk to a long-standing customer named Marcus, who she's seen around the club.
There was a fight at the club, and this regular was involved. So Felicia got him a bandage. He took full advantage of that introduction. He paid her to dance that night. He even paid her not to dance, and they just sat and talked.
Marcus seems to have a caring way about him, and Felicia feels an instant connection. Before she knows it, the mom-to-be pours her soul out to him.
Felicia told this individual that she was pregnant and that she wasn't going to be able to dance a lot longer. She was in need. She was in financial difficulties.
And Marcus seems to know just how to put Felicia's mind at ease.
He told her that they would get through this together, that he would take care of her, he would take care of the baby, and that's exactly what she wanted to and needed to hear.
They ended up exchanging phone numbers, and that was the beginning of their relationship.
But Marcus is not just a regular at the strip club. He uses it as a part-time office and recruitment center for hiring girls to work for him.
She knew he was a pimp when she met him. It was common knowledge in the club. He was pimping out some of the girls dancing in the club, so I don't think that was a big surprise to her.
Felicia was 16 years old when she went on to the pole. Even though she was part of the industry, she knew the pimps, they hung out where she worked. She didn't really understand who these individuals were and how dangerous that they could be.
Before Felicia gets a chance to see Marcus again, he gets arrested for battery and marijuana possession. But being locked up doesn't stop him from pursuing Felicia.
He called her every day. He was giving her money, sending her people to take her to work. He was essentially courting her from jail.
Basically, she took that to mean that he's going to look out for me no matter what. It just seemed to confirm her hopes for that relationship.
This made a huge impression on Felicia and made her feel wanted, but even worse, got her to be even more dependent on him than she ever was before.
3 months after Marcus is locked up, he's released from jail, and Felicia gives birth to her son. Then, a few weeks after, she settles into motherhood. As promised, he steps in to care for the new pair, treating both Felicia and her child like they're his own family.
That's when he introduced himself, and I hated him from that day forth.
He was taking care of her, paying the bills, even buying Pampers for the baby.
Less than a month after giving birth, Marcus encourages Felicia to go back to work and to once again move out of her mom's house.
He puts her in a motel. He has a babysitter in there, another woman, who is taking care of Felicia's baby when she's out making money.
They were living in a motel because that's where he kept all his girls. And even though Felicia felt like she was different, she wasn't.
Unlike the other women who work for him, Marcus continues to court Felicia and engage her in a relationship.
Felicia was slowly but surely being exposed to Marcus's pimp business. In many ways, he was beginning to desensitize her, and he did it in a very conscious way. This is what we call the grooming.
I would have tried to stop it, but I was under the impression that she was just gonna be home, raising her baby. I was happy.
5 months after Felicia moves into the motel, Marcus expects a return on his favors. He suggests she start tricking for him.
He was telling her that they needed the money to move out of Atlanta, buy a bigger house, raise a family together.
It's everything the now 17-year-old has always wanted, so she agrees to sell her body for money.
All of this for this pimp who was going to give her a wonderful life that she didn't have before. Felicia believed that she loved him and believed that this was a loving relationship.
He sold her a dream, so she did everything she could to please him. She was willing to do anything for her man.
5 months after 17-year-old Felicia Blakely moves in with her boyfriend Marcus in Atlanta, Georgia, he asks her to start turning tricks.
He was telling her that all this was just sacrifices that they had to undertake in order to get to the real ultimate goal of the good life. And she wanted to believe that in the worst way.
Determined to please him, Felicia upgrades her services and attempts to trick her first John right there in the club.
She met a guy, danced for him, offered sexual favors for money. He agreed. She took him to a back room.
But things don't go as planned.
As they start getting into it, he informs her he doesn't have a condom. So he says he's going to go get one and come back, but he never came back.
When Marcus picks Felicia up from work that night, she tells him what happened. And Felicia gets her first taste of her boyfriend's violent side.
He gets out of the car, comes around to her side, and to her complete shock, beats her badly.
She had witnessed some of the violence between her boyfriend and the other girls, but she thought she was different. She thought she was one of his special girls.
When you look at the relationship between a pimp and a prostitute, for the pimp, it's all about the money. He'll set some sort of a quota that she is supposed to meet, and if she doesn't meet it, then she will be severely punished.
She was one in a stable of women who were making money for him.
From that day forward, Felicia doesn't miss another opportunity to make money for Marcus again.
So fairly quickly, Felicia then ends up becoming a full-time prostitute. And she started getting accustomed to it. She got a little better at it. She actually got some regular customers. All of the proceeds are going to the pimp.
But the life is no place for a child, and Felicia leaves her son with her mother with little explanation.
She always wants to protect me. She doesn't want me to know everything, so I don't know what actually happened.
Over the next year, she becomes Marcus's top girl and is charged with training a new girl, 21-year-old Amisha Irvin. The girls are handed guns along with a gruesome new assignment. He wants them to start robbing their tricks to bring in more money. To avoid disappointing him or bringing harm to herself, she agrees to rob one of Marcus's top clients, Frederick Calloway, a known drug dealer in Orlando, Florida.
That really is an example of how loyal she was to him, that she was willing to carry a weapon and use it on someone else to take what they have to give to him.
Strapped with her new gun, Felicia and prostitute partner Amisha head down to Florida to complete their mission.
They went back to his motel room, and after sex, they robbed him, and Felicia shot him.
After Felicia shot him, they were so scared, they just ran out of there. They didn't even get any money.
Frederick survives the shot, but it paralyzes him from the waist down. He doesn't have enough information about Marcus's girls to name Felicia and Amisha, and neither one are ever pursued by police. Back in Atlanta, Marcus is furious they have returned empty-handed, and he makes Felicia pay the price for their failure.
He poured alcohol on her and lit her on fire.
It's not easy, as one may think, for Felicia to just get up one day and say that I'm out of here. I'm gonna get out of this abusive situation. At this point, her self-esteem has been destroyed. Her spirit has been crushed. She's afraid and she's under constant threat.
Fortunately, Felicia only suffers minor burns. She relies on the girls to help her make a speedy recovery.
Whenever he severely beat a girl or injured her, he wouldn't take her to the hospital. He made the other girls nurse her back to health.
They would stay in the motel room together and bandage up their wounds and wait till they healed up and go back out and start turning tricks again.
Once she's recovered, Marcus sends Felicia and Amisha out to make it right. He tells them to rob one of their regulars, Ray Goodwin. Felicia's upset because she genuinely likes Ray.
He was a listening ear when she had issues, but he always tried to encourage her to do something else with her life.
And to make sure Felicia doesn't get cold feet, Marcus calls her on the way over for some final encouragement.
Do what you gotta do, but get my money.
The pimp tells her, get that money. Don't come home without that money. You need to hit this lick. The phrase was always hit a lick. And I think what Felicia was told by the pimp, she understood to mean kill.
Get my drugs. Don't leave no witnesses.
Felicia had to make a decision. She either had to rob her friend to please her man or face his wrath. So she grew more and more desperate. to get it right and to please him.
She may have seen it as a last chance for her to prove her love to the pimp.
When Felicia and Amisha arrive at his place, unsuspecting Ray has no idea that his life is in the nervous palms of Felicia's hands.
They start playing music and they start drinking and just basically passing the time while Felicia is trying to work up the nerve to do what she believes the pimp has told her to do.
Felicia's just about to make her move when Ray's friend, Claudel Christmas, known as Doc, knocks on the door. It's just the interruption she's been praying for.
So she got on the phone and called her pimp. Well, she was expecting for him to say that you don't have to do it. He, in fact, said no witnesses.
She pretty much had to do whatever he said. It was either him or her, that's all. And she didn't want to die.
She didn't hang up the phone. She went back in the room and kept him on speaker.
Felicia pulls out her gun and levels it at Doc.
What are you doing? Stop!
And later, in San Bernardino, California, Keisha Smith, one-time girl next door, channels her dark side to keep her man interested.
Keisha grabbed the pillowcase and put it over her head.
Ultimately, her love for him would be her demise. Everything that she did it for her man.
In Atlanta, Georgia, 17-year-old Felicia Blakely and her prostitute partner, Amisha Irvin, are tasked with robbing and killing 2 men by their pimp. Felicia knows she has to give him what he wants, or her own life is on the line.
She shot Doc in the right temple.
Whoa, stop, please, stop, don't.
She raised the gun on Ray and shot him several times.
Neither man had a chance.
Felicia picked the phone back up. That's when she heard her boyfriend and her pimp tell her, "That's my girl. Wipe the place clean and get out of there."
Felicia had the choice of chickening out. She didn't have to kill either man. But at this point, I believe she was so psychologically compromised, she felt that she had no other choice.
After all of that, after the lives of 2 men, including one who was friendly to Felicia, they only recovered a few $100s.
What the girls don't know is there's a silent witness to this brutal shooting.
Doc was on the phone at the time of the shooting. So the person he was on the phone with heard the shots and called Ray's sister. Ray's sister came to his apartment and discovered their 2 dead bodies and called the police.
DeKalb County, Georgia police immediately launched their investigation, but the girls, who are unidentified, are long gone. Back at the motel, Marcus is so unhappy by the meager take that he sends Felicia and Amisha back out to hunt down another victim. The ladies scour the Atlanta streets until they find a good mark. A man named Demetrius Twitty.
They're sort of attracted to Twitty because they observe that he's wearing a lot of jewelry. In their minds, that meant that he had a lot of money. They agree to go home with Mr. Twitty in exchange, basically sex for money. And they do go to his apartment.
Demetrius has no idea that he's just invited 2 cold-blooded killers into his home.
Felicia Blakely and Mr. Twitty go back into the bedroom. While that is going on, Amisha is going through the apartment, looking for things to steal, gathering things up. He immediately figures out that he's being robbed, and he gets angry. And that's when Felicia takes out her gun and shoots him multiple times and kills him.
Once again, the girls only find a few $100s in the apartment, but their big payoff is the man's car. They take it back to show Marcus. Tonight, he seems pleased.
He wanted her to commit these murders partly for the money, but partly sort of as a control mechanism. If she's killed somebody, he's got her for life. She can never get away from him. He's got something on her.
Keep it in your bag.
The following day, Marcus gets greedy and sends his girls out into the city on a week-long robbery spree.
They were successful a couple of times. They had robbed a few restaurants and gotten some money for their pimp.
10 days after killing Demetrius Twitty, the women think they may get away with murder. But DeKalb County police are called when a suspicious business owner overhears them in the bathroom, plotting to rob the place.
They actually tried to flush their weapons. They were arrested right there at the restaurant.
Police run the tags on their vehicle in the parking lot and trace it back to Lemetrius Twitty. And the next day, when they question Felicia about why she's in possession of a dead man's car, she tells police everything.
She took complete responsibility for it. She took responsibility for it herself, and she said she was the shooter.
Not only does she tell them about Lemetrius Twitty, but also about the murders of Ray Goodman and Doc Christmas, and the maiming of the Orlando man, Frederick Calloway.
This was a woman who had been destroyed by Marcus, completely subjugated and humiliated and made to feel less than zero.
Amisha admits to assisting Felicia while robbing all 3 victims.
Amisha also admitted her part in the killings, but what is unfortunate for both girls is that neither of them made any mention of their pimp's involvement in their behavior.
Hours later, her mother is shocked when Felicia's face is plastered on the nightly news.
I broke down and cried, prayed. Tried to find out where she was at. The first time I saw her, she was in DeKalb County Jail. She's sorry. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry. I asked her, you okay? She said she's doing the best she could.
Even behind bars, Felicia stands by Marcus, not letting on why she committed the crimes.
He took control of her when she was 16 years old, young and impressionable, and he groomed her, and he got her to be dependent, and he threatened her, he scared her, he destroyed her as a person. And so even though she was now facing this tremendous legal pressure, she still protected him and gave herself up.
A year and a half after her arrest, Felicia Blakely pleads guilty to multiple counts of armed robbery and murder.
She's 18 years old with a small child, and she's facing the death penalty, all because she wanted to please her man.
Amisha Irvin also pleads guilty to robbery and murder. They're each sentenced to life in prison. No charges are ever brought against the pimp who sanctioned it all.
He was arrested for some other trashy little stuff, but he's never been prosecuted. But he all but pulled the trigger. And he's still out there on the streets, still doing it.
Since sentencing, Felicia and Marcus have exchanged a series of letters over the years.
In a blind sense, crazy sense, she loved him, and she still does. And I don't understand why.
Despite her soft spot for her man, Felicia expresses deep remorse for her actions.
In court, she apologized to the families of her victims and hoped that they would forgive her.
She will talk to anyone, anywhere, to discourage girls from getting themselves in these kinds of situations, to see the dangers of this, and to try to prevent somebody else, some other young girl, from getting in this kind of a trap.
I have my daughter back, even though she's in prison. She's not the person that she was when she's in the streets. I miss her. If I could see her every day, I would. I wish she was home.
Felicia Blakely regrets doing her man's dirty work, and she's not the only woman wishing she had done things differently. Keisha Smith also got mixed up with a man who sent her into a downward spiral. In San Bernardino, California, Keisha enters a rough life from birth.
She never really knew her father.
Keisha was living with her mom, had a lot of problems with her, wasn't the greatest of places to be growing up.
Despite her broken home life, Keisha wants to make something of herself. She dreams of opening her own hair salon one day. So at the age of 19, she starts attending Valley Junior College. That's where she meets fellow classmate 19-year-old Mike Mitchell.
Keisha was the kind of girl who was timid, docile, shy, and reserved. She was very to herself. Mike overwhelmed her with his outgoing charisma and charming personality.
My name is Mike. They had an almost instant connection, almost love at first sight.
That was a big boost to her ego. I think it was validation. It made her important.
But Mike and Keisha couldn't be any more different. While she strives to make good grades, Mike uses campus life to expand his business.
Mike Mitchell had been dealing drugs for years. He used his big personality to sell drugs.
But that doesn't turn Keisha away. Mike has her full attention.
Mike, he knew what he wanted. He was kind of a businessman. He was strong, and that's exactly the kind of guy that Keisha Smith was looking for.
Even though Mike's choices with the ladies are endless, he puts his all into courting Keisha.
Mike and Keisha, in the early stages of dating, had a very affectionate and safe relationship. They rode the bus to and from school together. They walked to class together. They spent a lot of time together.
Just being young college students in love.
Keisha quickly learns that trying to hold on to him will change everything about her forever.
She let him mold her into whatever he wanted her to be.
Timid 19-year-old Keisha Smith is falling in love with 19-year-old classmate and drug dealer Mike Mitchell. 8 months into the relationship, Keisha is ready to pick out her wedding dress. But the honeymoon phase is over for Mike, who finds himself longing for the thrill of his single days.
Keisha notices that they're not spending as much time together, and Mike is not really paying as close attention to her.
And Keisha's willing to do anything to keep his attention.
She tried to look like the type of women that he was known for dating. She started wearing more revealing clothing. She wanted to look like his crowd.
Keisha was changing her personality, her mannerisms, all to show Mike that she can be a little bit more edgy.
Once Keisha got involved with Mike, it was going in the wrong direction for her because it wasn't about her feelings any longer. It wasn't about her self-esteem. It was all about Mike. Without Mike, she was nothing. And so whatever it is that Mike wanted, she was willing to do. She was willing to change her appearance in order to suit Mike. She was willing to change her face, wear certain clothes. All of it not for her, but for Mike.
Mike doesn't seem to notice Keisha's new edge, but she refuses to let him go. So she sets out to prove to him that she can be as bad as anyone in his crowd.
Soon after she made the decision that she was going to be a criminal, she was actually arrested for burglary.
She had no record before this. This wasn't characteristic of her behavior before being involved with Mike.
We all have that inner voice that tells us to do the right thing. And for Keisha, I'm sure she heard that voice. And instead, she went and got herself in deep, deep trouble, all for the love of Mike.
Keisha pleads guilty to felony burglary. A few weeks after the initial plea, she's released on probation and due to be sentenced in 3 months. Hoping she has impressed Mike, she's relieved to find her man waiting for her with open arms.
Once Keisha was out, she reconnected with Mike. Keisha's arrest for the burglary was a rite of passage that moved her closer to Mike and more into his world.
The next month marks the beginning of a new semester. Keisha doesn't re-enroll because of her pending sentence. Mike doesn't return either. Instead, he thinks Keisha may be onto something, burglarizing homes.
If he robs these houses and sells what's inside of them, he can buy more drugs to make more money. The more drugs he has to sell, the more money he can make, and the cycle continues.
And he enlists the help of his girlfriend.
He proposed to Keisha that they become this Bonnie and Clyde duo.
How do you feel about that? You're excited?
Yeah.
She was drawn in because she wanted to be with him.
Keisha was already on probation, so that inner voice of hers, that conscience probably whispered to her, don't get involved in illicit activities because you can go to jail. But her love for Mike was so overriding, it dampened the voice that said, do the right thing.
2 months into Keisha's probation, she and Mike start casing houses, looking for the right one to rob.
They looked in the middle-class areas of San Bernardino where they thought they can get the most money, the most jewelry, or the most merchandise.
But Mike thinks they need more intel before choosing the right house. And Keisha knows just who to ask.
Keisha recommended a woman from her apartment complex, Sherry Beck, who she knew dealt in stolen merchandise.
Sherry had a reputation for using drugs, selling drugs, and stealing things to get more drugs.
In exchange for drugs, Sherry agrees to help, and she has the perfect house in mind.
Sherry was upset with her drug dealer, Derek Hassett. She felt like he had ripped her off, and she wanted to get back at him. So she recommended his house.
Sherry invites them to case the house and rides the couple past the place, pointing out all possible entry points. But she has one word of caution.
Sherry warned Mike and Keisha that Derek lives at home with his parents and his grandmother. However, Sherry knew that most of the family was out of the house during the day, and she believed that she could lure Derek away from the house if she wanted to.
The next morning, partners Mike and Keisha put their plan in motion. They park down the street from Derek's house and anxiously wait for Sherry to do her part.
Sherry went to Derek's house to distract him, talk to him, lure him, whatever she has to do. Mike and Keisha are in the car watching the house.
Sherry was having trouble getting Derek to leave the house, so she was with him longer than expected. Mike drove past several times and began to get impatient.
And when Sherry fails to get Derek to leave, she splits.
Sherry told Mike and Keisha that Derek wasn't leaving, and on top of that, the grandmother was still in the house. Sherry told them they should forget it.
Determined to keep their plan in play, Mike and Keisha ignore her advice. And hasty Mike is about to lead Keisha into the biggest blunder of her life.
There was no turning back. At that point, she had to prove that she was his ride or die.
She bought into this whole Bonnie and Clyde duo, and she would do anything just to make him happy.
In San Bernardino, California, just 10 months into Keisha Smith's relationship with Mike Mitchell, the two are casing a house to rob, waiting for its owner to take off so they can go in.
So Mike and Keisha are now driving back and forth, trying to figure out why Derek hasn't left the house yet. They're becoming upset.
They continue to stake out the house, and an hour later, to their relief, Derek finally leaves.
They got into the house because the back patio door wasn't locked.
Mike and Keisha started ransacking the house. They turned the house upside down.
After cleaning out several rooms, Keisha and Mike head to the back bedroom. That's where they startled Derek's grandmother, Josephine Kelly.
Please don't hurt me.
Mike threw a pillowcase to Keisha and told Keisha to put the pillowcase over the grandmother's head.
Don't hesitate, we don't have time.
No, I'm not doing this to her.
Keisha was the one at a higher risk because she was out on probation. She actually had more to lose.
This would be the very last opportunity that Keisha would have to turn away and change her mind.
But Keisha does as Mike asks. She places the pillowcase over Josephine's head.
Keisha had pledged her allegiance to Mike and would do whatever it is that he needed or wanted. Even though she was on probation and the specter of her getting in trouble was near, she was just willing to go by her heart, to please her man, even if it meant harming an elderly woman.
Unbeknownst to Keisha, Mike is carrying a gun. He slowly draws the weapon and points it in Josephine's direction.
For Keisha, this was a game changer. She never knew that there was going to be a weapon involved, and she certainly didn't think anybody was going to get hurt, especially a 90-year-old woman.
Keisha stands back and watches in horror as Mike strikes Josephine with the gun, after which Josephine remains motionless.
One of the most heinous things that you can do is to attack a defenseless senior citizen. So when Keisha and Mike attacked Josephine, at this point, Keisha knew that she was in over her head. After all, this is a young woman who had no history of any violence in her life. So now she was scared. Now she was in shock. Now she knew she was in deep, deep trouble.
Mike and Keisha leave Josephine lying there and grab everything they can carry.
They had some money, some jewelry, coins, a foreign currency coin collection even, anything they could put their hands on.
Once in the car, Keisha and Mike don't say a word to each other. They stop at a pawn shop to fence some of the things they've stolen and stash the rest back at Mike's place. Then Keisha goes back to her mom's house alone.
She just witnessed Mike, the man that she loves, who she only planned to rob a house with, bludgeon an old woman. They had no clue whether Josephine was alive or dead. They managed to get out of there without getting caught.
The following morning, Keisha is startled by what she's done when the television news reveals that Josephine Kelly is dead.
Josephine Kelly's body was discovered by her daughter after work.
Josephine had died of asphyxiation.
24 hours later, San Bernardino police are suspicious of Josephine's drug-dealing grandson. Derek Hassett should have been home at the time of the murder. With no other suspect, they arrest him for the killing of his grandmother.
After Derek was arrested, he apparently mentioned that Sherry was at the house, so then police went to go question her.
After hours of interrogation, Sherry caves into the pressure of the police investigation and turns on her would-be partners in crime.
Sherry told police that she pointed out the house to Mike and Keisha and encouraged them to rob Derek.
Derek is immediately released, and Sherry, to her surprise, is also released for lack of evidence tying her to the crime. Meanwhile, Keisha and Mike have no clue Sherry's been talking. They think they've gotten away with murder. But in a blink of an eye, everything will change.
Ultimately, her love for him would be her demise.
3 weeks after San Bernardino, California couple Mike Mitchell and Keisha Smith kill 90-year-old Josephine Kelly, the hammer comes down on them.
Police were suddenly at the door of Mike's mother. They raided the house, and lo and behold, they found stolen items from Josephine Kelly's house.
The police found jars of coins, foreign currency, and jewelry that had been missing from Josephine's house.
They also found Keisha hiding in a closet.
His mother is shocked at what they're accusing her son of, but fast-talking Mike has an explanation for how the goods ended up with him.
Mike explained that he had done a deal with Sherry Beck, drugs for merchandise. Now, he wasn't sure where this stuff came from and says that he wasn't sure if it was stolen.
Because their star witness, Sherry Beck, is a known thief and drug addict, police aren't prepared to make the other charge stick, so they charge Mike with possession of stolen property. Keisha is also arrested and charged with a probation violation. And in a stunning blow, Mike is released 15 days later on bail.
The prosecutor, in their discretion, felt that the evidence that was gathered was not enough to connect Mike, Sherry, or Keisha with the murder of Josephine Kelly. The prosecutor did not decide to charge or prosecute. The case went cold.
Keisha remains behind bars, and a few weeks later, she's sentenced for her initial burglary charge. She receives 4 years in prison. Her solace is knowing that Mike is still by her side, but it doesn't last long.
Initially, when Keisha started serving time, Mike was visiting her in jail, but the visits became less and less frequent.
Eventually, Mike didn't see Keisha at all. Mike moved on with his life, got another girlfriend, had a child, and got married.
Keisha could have made a plea deal to get a lesser sentence in her burglary case, but she stands by her man. When she's released from prison 4 years later, she doesn't reach out to Mike and remains mum.
Remarkably, Keisha still refused to tell authorities his role in the robbery and the murder of Josephine Kelly. Her loyalty to him remained.
She could have easily turned on Mike and Sherry, but she never did because she loved Mike. She was in that for the long haul. She wanted to continue to prove that she loved her man.
Keisha threw her life away. At the end of the day, she was with someone who really didn't care for her anymore, who wouldn't even visit her in jail, who in fact just let her rot in prison.
But Mike's luck will eventually run out. 8 years after the murder, the San Bernardino police reopened the murder case of Josephine Kelly. They offer a $10,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. That's when a witness contacts police.
The 10 grand reward apparently was enough for Mike's mother to come forward. She indicated to police that she overheard Mike and Keisha talk about the murder and actually had inside information that never went public. And so police had a pretty good idea that she was probably speaking the truth.
Mike's mother may have needed or wanted the reward money and was willing to sacrifice her son to get it.
Mike Mitchell and Keisha Smith are both charged with the murder of Josephine Kelly. Once again, Sherry Beck cooperates with police. She is arrested for her confession and cops a plea to voluntary manslaughter. Keisha and Mike are tried together, and Keisha comes face to face with the man she risked everything for.
Mike took no responsibility for anything and actually tried to convince the jury that he had never stepped foot in the house. Keisha reverted back to the old Keisha. She went inside herself. She would not say one word against Mike.
It's clear proof that Keisha loved Mike. She never gave him up. That first year that they were together defined all the years after as to the love that Keisha had for Mike.
Mike and Keisha are both found guilty of murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Sherry Beck is sentenced to 17 years.
When we look back at this tragic story, it's quite obvious that Keisha had what it took in order to be successful in life. She had a decent family life, even though she wanted a better family life. She had love, even though she wanted more love from Mike. But she really did throw her life away. She threw all her possibilities away. And now she is paying the consequences of behavior that was motivated by a love that was built on deceit and murder.
She gave up everything for this man who basically gave her nothing. And now she's paying for it with the rest of her life.
Keisha loved Mike so much that it made her blind to her own choices and responsibility that ultimately killed her dreams and everything that she wanted to be, all for this man.
For most, obtaining and maintaining love requires careful nurturing.
She swooped in and she latched on.
As their relationship developed, their emotional connection grew.
But for others, it can necessitate something more, something immoral, perhaps even something illegal.
I just think that she was like infatuated with my father.
She really was obsessed with him.
That's when love can break apart and into something extremely dangerous.
I found a dead body over in the woods.
When you've taken things too far, is there any turning back?
We know what happened. What happened?
There was no limit to what she was willing to do for my father's love.
Her answer was death.
March 12th, 2017. It's a chilly spring day in the sprawling community of Henrico, Virginia.
Henrico County, Virginia is kind of an umbrella to Richmond, the city. It wraps around the city proper.
Henrico is pretty much known for its residences, as well as having pretty good schools.
However, later that afternoon, an unsettling chain of events is beginning to unfold.
Around 5 p.m., a young woman named Katie Turner started to get worried about her boyfriend, Martre Coles.
Martre had plans to take a bus from his home in Henrico to Florida to visit a college. And Katie was expecting to hear from him. She thought he would text or call to say goodbye before he left for his trip.
But Katie hadn't heard anything from Martre since 10 a.m.
As the hours went by, Katie's mind just starts to spiral. Did he get on that bus? Was there an accident? Was he abducted somewhere?
Katie decides to reach out to Martre's sister, Michelle Coles, to see if she's heard from him.
Martre stayed at Michelle's house the night before he was supposed to leave for his college trip.
Katie had called me and said she had been trying to contact Martre for a couple of hours. I thought it was very unusual for him not to respond to any of the messages.
Michelle tells Katie that she had dropped Martre off at their father's house that morning, and he was supposed to head to the bus stop from there.
She asked me to go by the house to see if Martre was still there. Was he asleep? Had he left? I called my sister and told my sister what was going on.
Michelle stated she called and she didn't speak to him either. And I said, come get me. We're gonna go to my dad's house.
As night falls on Henrico County, the sisters arrive at their father's home, where Michelle had dropped off Martre earlier that day.
They both were met by her dad and his girlfriend, Denise. Denise confirmed, hey, I just saw Martre and he was leaving to get on the bus to go to Full Sail University.
According to Denise, Martre had left for the bus around 12 p.m.
She was like, I don't know. He just up and left. It didn't make absolutely any sense to me.
I never believed that Martray would have left without saying anything to us. So when we left, me and Michelle got in the car, and I instantly bust out in tears. And I told Michelle, something not right.
For 19-year-old Martray Coles, the art of drawing was always his #1 passion.
Being an artist, it runs in the family. He drew like with pencils, ink pens, crayons, markers, and things of that nature.
He wanted to go to school for graphic design for video games.
At the age of 16, Martray leaned heavily into his art as a coping mechanism when his mother unexpectedly passed away from cardiac arrest.
Martray took my mom's death very hard. It was like a cloud over him.
But Martray wasn't the only one suffering. His father, Terrence Coles, was also devastated by the loss of his wife.
Unfortunately, the death did nothing to bring father and son together. Instead, it made matters worse.
He was so busy mourning himself, I don't think he addressed Martray's feelings like at all.
That within itself can create a wedge between a father and a son.
Thankfully, things seemed to improve when Terrence began a relationship with co-worker Denise Gay.
As their relationship developed and their emotional connection grew, Terrence invited Denise and her young daughter Mia to move into his home with himself and with his son Martray. And this happened pretty quickly. They had only been dating for about a month before she moved in.
Denise also formed a bond with Martray.
Denise was really loving to Martray and helped him try to get into his dream school, which is Full Sail University in Florida.
She was helping him with the financial aid and getting his application in and speaking with the school advisor, getting a visit of the campus.
For Martray, leaving his hometown of Henrico, Virginia, was a welcome chance at a fresh start.
The morning I dropped Martray off at my father's house, we was talking about, his excitement going down to the school. He didn't really know what he wanted to do as far as his life after my mom's passing. And now he feel like, he knows what to do.
But now, no one has heard from Martray for more than 6 hours.
He hasn't responded to friends or family after they've made repeated attempts to contact him.
And his sisters are starting to panic.
It caused an alarm immediately. He was on like a lot of pills and stuff for depression and stuff like that.
He had contemplated suicide in the past.
It didn't help that Martray's strained relationship with his father had been getting worse and worse in the days leading up to his disappearance.
There were some odd things happening around their house that Martray kept getting blamed for.
One of the weird things that happened was that Terrence had discovered a pentagram drawn under the carpet in Martray's room. But when he confronted Martray about it, Martray said, "I didn't do it."
Terrence had held on to his deceased wife's old car, and one day it caught fire. And again, he blamed Martray. And Martray swore up and down that he did not set this car on fire.
Could the added tension with his father be the reason that Martray suddenly took off from home?
There was a concern that maybe he'd harmed himself or done something drastic instead of going on his college tour.
The next morning, with Martray's whereabouts still unclear, his loved ones look for any possible clues by searching his emails.
Kate and Martray were so close that Martray actually shared some of his login information with her.
As she scans the correspondences Martray received from Full Sail University in Florida, something catches her eye.
It was fullsail@gmail.com and not fullsail@edu.com. If this is a legit school, why would they write him an acceptance from a Gmail account?
When Katie found the emails, I knew something was wrong.
Things were just not adding up. Something was not right.
In March of 2017, 19-year-old Martre Coles was looking forward to pursuing his passion for art by attending Full Sail University in Florida.
He really had talent. He wanted to design for video games, maybe do comic books, and so he really had an incredibly bright future ahead of him.
But after leaving for a college tour of the university on March 12th, Martre has inexplicably vanished.
He had supposedly left his father's house around 12 p.m. to catch a bus to Florida where the university was located. But no one had heard from him since.
And now, nearly 24 hours after Martre's loved ones last made contact with him, suspicious emails from the college have set off even more alarm bells.
In the back end of those emails, it was a Gmail account that sent them and not an EDU account, which normally every college has an EDU account.
When Martre's loved ones reach out to the university, their suspicions are confirmed.
These emails that Martre had been receiving from Full Sail University were not real.
For Martre's sisters, this bewildering piece of information sends a clear message that they will need a lot more help in finding their brother.
Me and Marquisha went down to the police precinct. We told them that we wanted to file an immediate missing persons report, and they put the report in. The officers took the information, but because Martre was an adult, they didn't do anything.
As days turn into weeks since Martre's disappearance, family members can only hope that Martre will eventually turn up safe.
Michelle and I were actually looking day and night for Martre, trying to piece together what happened to Martre.
Then, 3 weeks after Martre mysteriously vanished, a disturbing discovery comes to light.
On April 2nd, 2017, a local resident named Aaron Thomas is out for a walk on his lunch break.
This is a location that is an industrial part of the county.
As he's making his way through, he sees this big plastic bin wedged between some bushes.
When he got closer to that bin, he saw shoes hanging out the side. He decided to further investigate and then found out, oh, wait a second, there are legs and feet attached to these shoes. That's not good.
When he opens it up, he could never have imagined the nightmare that he would find inside this bin.
That is when he saw a human body.
In shock, Aaron immediately dials 911.
I found a dead body over in the woods. I just reported it. I don't know what to do.
Were they still breathing at all?
No.
Okay. I've got police on the route.
When police get there, they did discover what looked like a younger African-American male.
The victim has been doused with powdered lime.
Lime is a substance that will help keep the smell of decaying flesh down.
His hands are bound behind his back with duct tape, but there was no signs of a physical struggle. There were no defensive wounds, there were no stabbing wounds, there was no blood. There was also no identification. They didn't know who this victim was.
However, a quick search of recent missing persons reports provides investigators with a hit.
The first report that Detective Egan receives is the one that Michelle and Marquisha Coles filed on behalf of their brother, Martre.
It was obvious when she placed the two images next to each other that the body that was found was, in fact, the missing Martre Coles.
After Martre's remains are transferred to the medical examiner, investigators are able to ascertain how he died.
The way that Martre died was that he was suffocated. The toxicology report revealed that Martre had 2 drugs in his system. He had the sleeping agent trazodone, and he also had GHB. Gamma hydroxybutyrate, which commonly we call the rape drug, can be a suppressant.
Investigators believe that Martre had been drugged first, and then, after becoming drowsy, was then suffocated to death.
But who did this to Martre? And why?
He was a good kid going to good places, and it was all stripped away. What kind of a person would do something like that?
My favorite memory of Martre is when he graduated. At the graduation, he kind of got like emotional. He took his diploma, he blew a kiss at me and my family, and then he blew a kiss to my mom and pointed up to my mom. After that, we all met up. He kind of like brushed past everybody, and he came to me, he gave me like the biggest, warmest hug. He was a warm-hearted young man.
April 2nd, 2017. 3 weeks after he was first reported missing, Martre Coles' body has been discovered inside a plastic bin in a wooded industrial park near Richmond, Virginia.
Investigators had come up with a cause of death for Martre. He was drugged and suffocated. But they still didn't have a why. They didn't know who could possibly want to hurt this young man.
Investigators set into motion a plan to find the person responsible for the heinous crime.
Police place a camera in the woods, trying to figure out if somebody would come back to the scene of the crime.
In an effort to avoid tipping off Martre's killer, police make the difficult decision to delay informing Martre's family that they have found his body.
We did not feel like we could even share with the siblings, who of course had expressed this immense amount of concern for their little baby brother, because they could actually kind of blow the cover and we would lose an opportunity to take the next steps of the investigation.
However, as detectives wait to see if the killer will return, a police sergeant from another division reaches out with information that stops them in their tracks.
The sergeant informs that 2 officers within his unit had documented an incident that occurred on March 31st. This was just 2 days prior to Martre's body being discovered.
On the evening of March 31st, there had been an alarm call where Martre Coles was living with his father, Terrence, and Denise Gay.
When officers arrived, they were met by Denise Gay's 12-year-old daughter, Mia, and older daughter, Latoya.
Latoya told the officers that Denise and Terrence were both at work.
And she explains to them that the burglary alarm was a false alarm.
Convinced nothing is wrong, officers prepared to leave. But as they begin to exit the home, young Mia made an unexpected request.
Mia asked the second officer if she could speak with him off to the side.
Once alone with the officer, Mia began to share a frightening story.
She says she saw her mother, Denise, and her older sister, Latoya, kill Martre.
In excruciating detail, Mia laid out what she claimed were Martre's final moments alive.
She says it started around 10:30 a.m. on the morning of March 12th when Terrence was at work. Martre had just been dropped back at the house after spending the night at his sister Michelle's.
Denise was helping Martre with this plaster face mask project that he was doing for Full Sail University. She says she could hear Martre start to get sick and throw up.
Then Mia heard Martray yelling, "Get off of me." And she ran to his room, and she saw her mother and her older sister on top of Martray.
Her mother locks eyes with her and simply gives her a hand gesture to send her back to her room, where she retreats and stays for a period of time. That was the last time she saw Martray ever again.
Mia later heard what sounded like something being pushed across the floor.
As she opened the door to see what was happening, she saw her sister pushing a Tupperware bin on the ground. Her mother indicated to her that she was to remain in her room, that they would be back.
At the time, officers were unsure what to make of Mia's account. They had interacted with Mia before and were aware she had a troubled past.
They were familiar with Mia because they had responded to this house on a previous incident. Mia had tried to run away from home after she was upset about a disciplinary action taken against her for some bad behavior.
It's a point that LaToya emphasized to the officers.
LaToya then is calling her mother, Denise, and explaining to her what Mia has told the police officers. It is during this time that Denise Gay is on her daughter's phone, speaking to the officer, trying to describe Mia as, again, a mischievous young lady, 12-year-old, who makes up stories, and that they should not believe anything that she's saying.
The officers ended up leaving without taking any further statements on the matter.
For whatever reason that we, to this day, don't know, no investigator came out on the scene that night.
It seems unbelievable that the officers didn't do more with this information, since Martray had already been reported missing at this point. But since they weren't taking Mia very seriously, they never looked up the report on Martray to connect the dots.
Now, homicide detectives have to wonder, was 12-year-old Mia telling the truth?
You flip back to that day in the burglar alarm call, it totally made sense. Detectives, they're like, wait a second here, we got something.
Investigators know they need to speak with Denise and LaToya as soon as possible.
And later that same day, they'll get their chance.
She was just very nonchalant, completely unconcerned.
Where do you think he is? I'm looking for him.
In April of 2017, Henrico County detectives have just made a stunning break in the murder case of 19-year-old Martray Coles.
Martray had been living at his father's house along with his father's girlfriend, Denise Gay, and Denise's 12-year-old daughter, Mia. According to Mia, she had witnessed her mother and her older sister, LaToya, kill Martray with their bare hands.
Although a troubled 12-year-old girl isn't the strongest witness, police can't ignore the fact that Mia's account matches key investigative details they've collected about the murder.
The way that Martray died was that he was suffocated.
That's essentially what Mia described she witnessed on the morning of March 12th.
But if Mia is telling the truth, why would Denise and LaToya want Martray dead?
Detectives were eager to speak to both women and start unraveling this case.
They decide to bring in Denise first.
During that initial interview, law enforcement didn't provide every piece of information that we had to Denise. We wanted to see if she would give us any information that would assist us in proving that she, in fact, was involved in the homicide.
Where do you think he is? My gut feeling is he's with his girlfriend.
I guess, would you expect to hear from Trey, or would his dad expect to hear from him, or?
That's any given time, because I'm looking for him. I mean, we speak. It's not like we don't, say anything at all to each other.
Right.
She was just very nonchalant, completely unconcerned. We were hoping she would get curious and wonder how much we really knew. And the theory was that she may even be so bold as to go back to the location where Martre's body had been left in the tote to see if we had found him.
Police still had their hunting camera at the scene, waiting.
So after that initial interview, Denise was allowed to leave. We did not arrest her at that point, and she was allowed to go home.
Detectives soon learned this isn't Denise's first run-in with law enforcement.
She was from Richmond, Virginia, but she had lived other places. She had family in both North Carolina and South Carolina.
We learned that up and down the eastern seaboard, she had been convicted of and incarcerated for crimes that involved various forms of fraud and deceit.
This rap sheet she had was more than 10 pages long. It's just huge.
By 2014, Denise was recently divorced and out of jail when she met Martre's father, Terrence Coles.
Denise met Terrence Coles at a food plant where they both worked. Terrence was a really hard worker. He was a provider for his family, and that attracted Denise to him.
I just think that she was like infatuated with my father. He can be fun, comedian, very comical.
But Terrence was also still grieving the death of his wife and doing his best to cope.
Terrence was extremely vulnerable during this time. And this is where Denise really found an opportunity to almost groom him. She swooped in and she latched on.
I believe Denise's position at the time was very beneficial. He was used to having a wife at home, someone who caters to him, and when Denise placed herself there and were doing those things, he was okay with it.
After just a month of dating, Terrence moved Denise and 12-year-old Mia into the home.
Denise really stepped into the role of mother and wife. She was doing things around the house, cooking and cleaning, and she really seemed to be building a close relationship with Martre.
But in reality, was Denise a wolf in sheep's clothing? Investigators were about to get one step closer to proving that theory.
We went back to retrieve the memory card from that camera, and an individual had returned to that location.
She returned to the dump site.
They caught her on camera.
April 2017. In Henrico, Virginia, detectives are zeroing in on Denise Gay as their main suspect in the murder case of 19-year-old Martre Coles.
Denise's youngest daughter, Mia Gay, reported seeing Denise kill Martre with the help of her other daughter, LaToya.
And now, thanks to a camera investigator set up at the body dump site, they get another win in their case against Denise.
We found images of an individual caught walking through the camera shot.
It wasn't hard for detectives to see that, okay, that's Denise, that's her shape.
We believed that Denise was trying to take Martre's body and dispose it so that we would never find it. However, what she did not know is we had already found Martre's body.
When detectives get their hands on Denise's phone records, they uncover even more evidence tying her to the crime scene.
On the morning Martre was killed, phone records show Denise's cell phone pinging at her home until 2:30, and then driving over to the site where Martre's body was found, and she stayed there for 7 minutes.
Armed with these latest pieces of damning evidence, police decide to bring Denise in for another interview. But this time, they're playing hardball.
Law enforcement disclosed to her that Martre was dead and that we had found his body.
What happened?
That's what we want you to tell us.
Denise is playing this thing off cool and collected. She's acting like, she doesn't know anything about the homicide.
You're saying that you know what happened?
We do.
What happened?
You killed him in your house. The last time you saw him, he was in a storage bin.
She never seemed to be shaken or rattled by anything that was presented to her. She was very stoic, and I would say you could describe it potentially as sociopathic behavior.
Police charge Denise with first-degree murder and keep her in holding while they prepare to speak with her daughter and alleged co-conspirator, LaToya Gay. But tracking down LaToya will be easier said than done.
When LaToya realized that investigators were looking into her being connected to Martre's murder, she got out of town.
We knew that the Gays had family connections in South Carolina. They were able to finally locate her staying with a family member, and they brought her into the police department in South Carolina.
Inside the station, detectives take a crack at getting a confession from the 21-year-old.
It was actually kind of entertaining to watch, because when they said, "We have a warrant for murder for you," she kind of jumped back and said, "For me?"
There's a murder warrant for you.
For me? Why is it for me?
And just like her mother, she denied her involvement and didn't admit to anything.
I don't know what you're talking about. For what you did. Okay. I didn't do anything.
Investigators indict LaToya on the same first-degree murder charges as Denise.
Police believe Denise was probably the driving force in the crime. But since LaToya helped her with the murder and disposal of the body, she was just as culpable in the eyes of the law.
Now that the two suspects are in police custody, detectives finally update Martre's family on the details of the case.
I was home getting ready for work, and I got a call from the detectives, and they said, "Martre's dead." I remember screaming to the top of my lungs.
When I found out that Denise had been arrested for Martre's murder, I was happy because I had never liked Denise. I knew she was evil the first time I met her.
However, Terrence Coles has an entirely different reaction.
Martre's father did not take the news that Denise Gay had been arrested well. He actually tried to argue and say there's no way she would have done this, she cares about him.
Will investigators be able to secure a conviction?
They still needed to figure out an explanation for why Denise and LaToya committed this horrific crime.
There's no requirement under the law that you prove a motive, but the jury's probably gonna want one in this case.
When the case goes to trial, a sordid motive is revealed that shows just how far Denise was willing to go to solidify a future with her man.
Denise went to great lengths for their relationship.
She was willing to murder for his love.
I do believe Denise is a sick person, but I also believe that she really was obsessed with my father. She didn't want anyone around if his attention wasn't on her. Who would even think to involve her child into such nasty activity? It's traumatizing, and she not only hurt us, she hurt her own family.
On December 8th, 2017, nearly 8 months after 19-year-old Martre Coles was found suffocated to death, Denise and LaToya Gay stand trial for his murder.
In the courtroom, Denise absolutely showed no remorse, her or LaToya. There was a couple of moments where there was a bunch of laughing and giggling going on.
During the trial, prosecutors explain why Denise, the alleged mastermind, wanted young Martre dead.
What we learned about Denise Gay was that she was a very jealous woman, and we could think of no other reason for why she would literally sniff out the life of this precious soul, Martray, except for that he was in the way.
Denise was extremely threatened by Terrence's first wife, who had passed away, and she wanted to erase any memory of her, any trace of her.
Any trace, including Martray. Investigators believe Denise did everything in her power to have the 19-year-old kicked out of their home.
Authorities believe that she actually was the one who drew the pentagram that was found underneath Martray's carpet and set fire to his mother's car.
When those attempts failed to get Martray removed, Denise decided to take one final, unimaginable step.
Her answer was death, and she decided to murder Martray.
We were able to see that Denise Gay's computer in the house where Martray lived was the computer that was sending him emails proposing that he visit Full Sail University.
She figures that if Martray gets accepted into his dream university, no one would think twice if he goes away and they don't speak with him again.
On the morning of March 12, 2017, Denise put her heinous plan into motion with the help of her oldest daughter, LaToya.
I think she knew her daughter would agree to do it because I think LaToya had been manipulated by her mother for so long that she was probably more afraid of what her mother would do if she said no than of going to jail for her mother.
To make the process easier, Denise decided to drug Martray.
Perhaps she had given him some type of drink that she had put the drugs into so that he would be somehow subdued.
That was Denise and LaToya's opportunity to take him down. They suffocated him to death.
I absolutely believed that the jury would come back with a guilty verdict. I thought that the evidence was overwhelming.
But after the jury retires to deliberate, their verdict sends shockwaves through the courtroom.
The jury found LaToya and Denise Gay guilty on the conspiracy charge, but they were deadlocked on the murder charges.
The conspiracy charge would only yield a 10-year sentence.
I still to this day cannot wrap my head around how the jury agreed that LaToya and Denise Gay had conspired to kill Martray, but they couldn't agree that those two individuals had done it.
However, a surprising development involving Martray's father gives investigators a promising chance at a new trial.
Probably one thing that Detective Egan, nor Stacy, nor I would have ever imagined would have happened in a million years is the phone call that Detective Egan got from Terrence.
After seeing the evidence presented in the first trial, Terrence Coles had come around to the idea that his girlfriend Denise may not be as innocent as he once thought. And now he is willing to help law enforcement put her behind bars.
He had located Denise's purse in the closet that in fact had her cell phone there.
For investigators, the discovery of Denise's phone proves huge.
Investigators were able to see text messages between LaToya and Denise Gay about the dump site where Martray's body was found. And there were text messages about something being missing.
Investigators also find a number of bone-chilling internet searches that Denise had conducted on her phone.
There were things like how to dispose of a body.
When prosecutors reveal this explosive new evidence in a second trial on April 12, 2018, the outcome is decidedly different from the first one.
Denise was convicted of that murder charge, and the jury gave her the maximum sentence, which was life in prison.
LaToya was found guilty of murder, but she was sentenced to 20 years on the murder charge.
I think the jury felt that Denise was kind of the puppet master, and that's why the jury was more lenient with LaToya.
Despite the guilty verdicts, the pain of losing Martray still hits hard with his family.
We are still trying to get in a better place after Martray's death. She just took a lot from us, but I forgive her. I have to forgive in order to heal.
Martray was a wonderful person. He, wasn't just a wonderful artist on paper. He was an artist in the inside. He could paint a smile without painting it. I miss him every day.
This case is just absolutely heartbreaking. You have a teenage boy who is grieving the death of his mother. And here comes a woman who looks like she might be another mother figure. And instead of truly caring about him and helping him through his pain, it's the ultimate betrayal.
I think that if Denise would have gotten away with Martray's murder, that she definitely would have done something horrible to me and my sister. There was no limit to what Denise was willing to do for my father's love. To be honest, I think she would have murdered everybody on earth for it.
Love often breeds infatuation. But when that infatuation turns into obsession, it can have deadly consequences, destroying everything in its path. Mississippian Kathleen Nelson struggles to make ends meet until she falls for a man whose dream of hitting it big hits an all-time low.
She was immediately attracted to him. She thought he was very handsome.
But when a plan for fast cash results in a savage feud, she's willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to protect her man.
They broke out her window and began beating her.
It was an act of pure evil, and Kathleen was in it for the long haul.
And later, in Alabama, Kara Williams has the world at her feet when she meets a charming Marine.
He was tall, dark, and handsome. She was the girl next door.
But love takes her on a thrilling ride with only a dead end in sight.
She was comparing them to a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde.
She loved him, and she wanted to please him, even though she knew it was wrong.
For preteen Kathleen Nelson, life on the farm is no picnic in the tiny Mississippi town of Canton.
Her father was a sharecropper, which means they lived on land they didn't own, and they farmed it, and they paid rent.
Kathleen grew up in some very tough conditions. They were actually very poor. They didn't have running water or electricity.
Hard work and love keeps the family afloat until her father dies suddenly before her 16th birthday.
She was very close to her family, specifically her father. The death of Kathleen's father was quite devastating because he was their main source of income.
Now the mom has to try and take over the family business to pay the rent and to get a good crop in. And, if you're not experienced doing that, it's very tough.
With that tremendous loss that Kathleen had and losing that parent, the only thing she thought about is filling that hole in her heart.
Through her grief, she clings to her younger sister, LaVon, who's 2 years her junior. As they move through adolescence and into adulthood, the two become very close.
They went through everything together. They were there for each other through boyfriends, through love, through loss.
Now at 18, the sisters move out on their own in Canton. It's both an exciting time and a challenging time for the young women.
They didn't have a great educational level, so that's going to limit them to manual labor. And to make a good living, there wasn't a lot of opportunities in Canton area for them.
After 15 years of working every dead-end job Canton has to offer, this young woman wants more. She lands a gig at a trucking company 20 miles away in Jackson, Mississippi.
Kathleen got a job driving a truck. Her job was to transport candy.
Love is the last thing on her mind until she meets fellow trucker, 32-year-old Roosevelt Walker, just a few weeks later.
You are really cute in this outfit. I had to come over and let you know.
Excited to meet a female driver in a predominantly male workforce, the charmer quickly makes his move before someone else does.
Roosevelt saw in Kathleen someone that was a hard worker, someone that was very down to earth, and someone that had close ties to family.
They developed this bond, that's developed a relationship that eventually led into them becoming boyfriend, girlfriend.
This was her first romantic relationship with a man, which made her quite vulnerable to Roosevelt.
As the two develop their connection, her baby sis is thrilled for her older sister.
LaVon was so fond of Roosevelt that she called him a brother-in-law.
And Roosevelt's 52-year-old roommate, who he calls Uncle Joe, is quickly folded into the mix.
The four of them became like family and had really close relationships. If they weren't at Joe and Roosevelt's, then they were at Kathleen and LaVon's.
There's plenty of love in their lives, but money remains a constant concern for the foursome.
They were all desperately in need of money.
It's a very stressful situation. If it was another way out, it looked like they might take that option.
A way out may have just arrived when the guys think they have figured out a way to make thousands of dollars without having to do much at all.
Joe and Roosevelt were sitting around watching television, and an advertisement came on concerning the Black Farmer Settlement.
The Black Farmer Settlement was a class action lawsuit brought against the United States Department of Agriculture for denying loans to African American farmers on the basis of their race.
When they research the settlement, they find out that the payout for each person's accepted claim is $50,000.
Why not us? Exactly.
With a criminal record for theft in Uncle Joe's younger years and Roosevelt's spotty employment history, they suspect neither one of them will pass as farmers. But as luck would have it, they know two lovely ladies who might.
Joe and Roosevelt knew that Kathleen and LaVon came from a farming background, and so they said to them, you two file this claim and see can we get any money.
And when an ally's greed threatens to ruin their plan, Kathleen will stop at nothing to see it through.
So she went over completely to the dark side.
Bitch, I know you don't have a dead body in my car.
So it was all for the love of a man.
Kathleen was not going to let anything come between her and Roosevelt.
Canton, Mississippi native Kathleen Nelson and her boyfriend Roosevelt Walker are tired of working their fingers to the bone with nothing to show for it.
Kathleen and Roosevelt were always working, but it was never really enough to survive on.
Roosevelt and his uncle cook up a way to scam the Black Farmers Settlement Act that was designed to compensate black farmers who've been discriminated against by the government based on race.
Roosevelt and his Uncle Joe suggested to Kathleen and her sister that they submit the claim. If Kathleen and LaVon's claims were granted, they were looking for about $100,000 to split amongst the four of them.
Kathleen didn't really see this as a crime. She saw this as an opportunity to just kind of take advantage of the system. It would benefit not just her, but Roosevelt, and making him happy was also part of the deal for her.
Let's do this. Okay? It's a lot of money.
Sign the paper.
Now, all in, the sisters come up with an idea to sweeten the pot even more. They can increase their take to $150,000 by adding in a third applicant. When they proposition their childhood friend, 38-year-old Clovis Reed, Clovis wants a piece of the pie, too.
Clovis worked 2 minimum wage jobs, was working all the time, not making a lot of money, and a share of $150,000 would have been very inviting for her.
Eager to get their hands on the money, each of the women fills out the application and sends it in with dollar signs in their eyes. But it isn't to be.
After about 6 weeks, the sisters both received letters in the mail stating that both claims had been denied.
The group assumes Clovis has had the same result, but when they reach out to her, she's no longer accepting their calls.
Clovis, when you get this message, you need to call me. I need to know whether you're getting your check.
Kathleen and LaVon heard through other friends that Clovis was going to get this $50,000 payout.
And when Kathleen gets the rest of the story going on in the street, her dreams are slashed.
Say what?
Clovis had no intention of ever sharing that money with them.
Kathleen was very upset with Clovis. Not only was this a betrayal to Kathleen, but it was also going to hurt her relationship with Roosevelt.
You're not gonna believe this.
Rather than confronting their close friend, the duo comes up with an idea to get their hands on the money after all.
Hello, my name is Clovis Reed. Yes, I'm calling to find out whether my check has been mailed to me.
They decided to call the Black Farmers Fund Administration to see whether the check had been sent. When they called, they learned it had not been.
After consulting with her boyfriend and his uncle, they all decide it's time to cash in. She calls the Settlement Administration one last time with a special request.
Kathleen pretended to be Clovis and told them to reroute the check.
And then requested the check be sent to Levon's P.O. box versus Clovis's actual address. And they succeeded.
Did you do it? Done. No! It's done.
2 weeks later, the mastermind couldn't be happier when his girl tells him that Clovis's check has arrived.
Now the next step is they have to get it cashed, so they need a bank account where they can go deposit the check.
But the women have already got that covered. The devoted girlfriend gets a fake ID, citing she's Clovis Reed.
Levon and Kathleen walked into the bank. Kathleen posed as Clovis, signed all the documents, and they deposited that check.
Now, with $50,000 between the four of them, they think they're living high on the hog.
These are people who have been poor all their life and not have much money, and $50,000 is a lot of money.
Kathleen was overjoyed to see this $50,000. She was getting something that legitimately belonged to her and Roosevelt. And if nothing else, Roosevelt was happy.
As the weeks go by and Clovis doesn't receive her check, she calls the settlement administrators to find out that her check had already been sent out and deposited.
Her hands were tied because if she'd told the authorities, that would have also incriminated Clovis.
Within 60 days of having the cash, the money-hungry foursome spend the entire $50K, finding themselves broke again.
They were right back where they started. They were back working jobs here and there.
They slog on with their lives as if nothing has happened for the next 2 years. Then, one cold winter day, they open their mailbox and get the jolt of their lives.
Are you kidding me right now?
The two sisters are being indicted and charged with forgery and conversion of Clovis's $50,000 check.
You need to fix it.
Kathleen and Levon were looking at serious charges, federal crimes, and were facing potential incarceration.
Once they received the indictment, I think it's no doubt that they knew Clovis Reed had to have some role in it.
Roosevelt and Joe did not receive letters of indictment, but they knew that it could only be a matter of time because Clovis knew of their involvement in the scheme.
As their hearing day approaches, Kathleen is in a panic.
She's facing jail time. What's at stake for Kathleen is losing her liberty, her freedom, and her man, Roosevelt.
The siblings turn to the orchestrators for a solution.
What are we gonna do? So they call a meeting amongst the four of them, and they get together to try and figure out how to deal with Clovis.
I'm running out of patience, and she's got to go.
They talked about it for hours. They went back and forth, and they decided on a plan.
We got to do this now. We got to do it fast.
They felt that they were left with no choice but to kill her.
You trust me, right?
Of course.
Then that's it. She got to go.
Kathleen must have been very, very desperate to plan a murder, especially against a lifelong friend. This speaks to the devotion and the blinding love that she had for Roosevelt.
By nightfall, they're ready to put their ruthless plan in motion. 5 days before Clovis is scheduled to testify against them, the sisters wait at home as the men take off in Kathleen's car to deal with Clovis once and for all.
Kathleen knew through a friend that Clovis worked at a convenience store near her home, and that she got off about 11 o'clock and would drive home by herself.
The two park in the shadows on a rural road, 2 blocks from Clovis's house in Canton. Within an hour, they spot their target.
Roosevelt blocked Clovis in with Kathleen's car, while Joe threw a brick through Clovis's passenger window.
Kathleen proved without a doubt the most important thing in the world was him.
And later, in Tampa, Florida, Kara Williams will trespass into a world of danger for her new husband.
She knew he was a gambler, but she had no idea he'd be gambling with their lives.
She walked into that bank, slipped that teller that note, and she had to be scared out of her mind.
To date, Congress has provided $1.25 billion to settle the black farmers' discrimination litigation.
The black farmers case was monumental to civil rights because not only was it the largest settlement in history, but it really sought to right the wrongs of past racial injustices.
Kathleen Nelson's boyfriend, Roosevelt Walker, and his uncle, Joe Collins, are out to get revenge on their ex-friend, Clovis Reed, for ratting Kathleen out for her involvement in a fraudulent check scheme.
A week before Clovis was scheduled to testify against Kathleen, she was ambushed on a road in her hometown of Canton, Mississippi.
While Kathleen and her sister wait anxiously at home, Roosevelt and his uncle are executing a plan to make Clovis disappear.
They were able to make her pull over. When she stopped the car, they broke out the window.
As their rival comes face to face with her attackers, she screams for dear life, but it's too late.
After taking Clovis from her car, Roosevelt and his Uncle Joe beat her to death.
They quickly put her lifeless body in the trunk of their car and make sure no one's seen them before driving off into the night.
Roosevelt and Joe called Kathleen, and Roosevelt asked Kathleen to come remove Clovis Reed's car.
What do you mean she's not breathing? Bitch, I know you don't have a dead body in my car.
Listen, just come get the car, okay?
Kathleen appeared to be quite shocked that they actually killed Clovis. This was a friend of theirs that they had known for much of their lifetime, that she would end up in this sort of situation. But she was not going to turn Roosevelt in. She was going to stand by her man.
She could have stopped this thing in its tracks, but she made the conscious decision to gratify herself by not losing Roosevelt.
Her sister overhears the conversation, and despite their horror, they jump into action, doing as they're told.
We gotta go now. What? We gotta move the car. Let's go. But what? Let's go.
Lavon's role was to take Kathleen to Clovis's car and follow Kathleen to a location where they could actually ditch Clovis's car in Jackson. They were trying to make it seem as though there was a robbery.
Hurry up!
As the siblings abandon the car and wipe it down for prints, Roosevelt and Joe dispose of the last piece of evidence, the body.
They drove 50, 60 miles away to a rural area in Simpson County, Mississippi.
While Roosevelt holds Clovis's lifeless head in place, his uncle uses a Kaiser knife to savagely decapitate her, before cutting off her hands so no one can identify the body.
They took the head in the hands and put it in a bag, got in Kathleen's car and drove off.
They dispose of the appendages in a place where nobody ever finds them. Now that her troubles have been buried, Kathleen breathes a sigh of relief.
Kathleen definitely crossed over to the dark side in this case. It was all, for the love of a man that she would do this.
2 days later, in the field where they left the body, a beekeeper stumbles upon the discovery of a lifetime. Despite not having a head or hands, investigators are able to identify Clovis's body through DNA.
This was big news. It was a federal witness that people who she was going to testify against didn't want her to testify.
By the next day, FBI agents have a warrant for both sisters' cell phone records, where they discover the name Roosevelt Walker for the first time. Then the agents hit the jackpot when they discover that on the night Clovis went missing, Roosevelt's phone pinged off a cellular tower close to where the body was found. That same day, their victim's abandoned car is located.
There was also phone records indicating that Lavon had been near that apartment complex where Clovis Reed's vehicle was found.
Joe's name doesn't come up since he doesn't have a cell phone. That night, investigators find the ladies at their house, along with Roosevelt. Under the hot lights, the three maintain they were at their respective homes when Clovis met her demise.
They're not aware that the investigators have the cell phone records and the records from the tower.
When investigators reveal the incriminating evidence against them, Kathleen and her man stand strong. But baby sis crumbles.
She admitted to conspiring to murdering Clovis Reed.
LaVon took a plea deal which involved her testifying against Joe, her sister Kathleen, and her boyfriend Roosevelt. She ended up getting 25 years.
Faced with a possible life sentence, she is steadfast on standing her ground with her boyfriend.
Even though she could have struck a deal, her devotion to Roosevelt wouldn't allow her to do it, so she was going all the way in protecting him.
The ill-fated lovers are tried together and are convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. They're each sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole, and neither turns on the other.
Kathleen stood by her man. She never changed her tune. She supported Roosevelt throughout the trial.
10 months later, Joe Collins is convicted of the first-degree murder of Clovis Reed. He never tells anyone what he did with Clovis's head and hands. Kathleen has the rest of her life behind bars to ponder how she let love lead to her demise.
Kathleen's downfall was falling in love with Roosevelt at that particular point in her life. She'd not had any significant relationships. He came along during a time that she was vulnerable.
You go from being this hardworking person, never been in serious trouble, to being involved in a murder. That's a pretty good jump.
It ended with the death of a lifelong friend, the loss of her freedom, and the loss of a relationship, the closeness, the intimacy with Roosevelt.
Kathleen Nelson put all her bets on the wrong guy, and the losses were catastrophic. 300 miles away in Gadsden, Alabama, Kara Williams also gets caught between love and unstoppable forces of greed. Growing up, Kara's life seems to be ripped out of the pages of a fairy tale in Gadsden, Alabama.
Kara was definitely the all-American girl. Cute little blonde, blue eyes. She had 2 younger siblings who looked up to her. She was close with her mom and dad. They adored her.
I always said about Kara that there was never a stage big enough or a microphone loud enough for her, because she loved to perform and she loved to be the center of attention.
Throughout school, she spends most of her time in front of a crowd.
Kara was very involved in a lot of sports. She played softball, she did cheerleading.
After high school, she becomes the first person in her family to go to college.
Kara was very excited. Her family was excited, and she had a goal to be successful.
4 years and a psychology degree later, the 21-year-old marries her college sweetheart.
Everything started out fine. The marriage was great, but then quickly things took a turn.
He started to become very controlling, very abusive, and she started to fall into a deep depression at that time.
We definitely saw a personality change in her. Someone that had been, very bubbly and outgoing, almost was like she went into a shell.
After 3 years of sinking deeper into depression, she files for a divorce. Though many women would falter in the face of a failed marriage, Kara thrives. She gets a job as a sales rep for a national paper shredding company.
She made this 6-figure salary, and she was ranked as the #1 sales rep in her region.
She really found and reconnected with her own self-worth. That was her sense of identity.
She had gone from a very low point to a very high point very fast.
But in less than a year, another shot at love will put her autonomy to the test. And she'll take the gamble of a lifetime.
We need to hit another bank right now.
The stakes were very high for Kara, and so she felt that she had no choice.
Whatever she had to do to save her marriage, she was going to do it.
In Gadsden, Alabama, 26-year-old Kara Williams has the world at her fingertips after ending her 3-year marriage.
After the divorce was finalized, that's when she was able to reinvent herself. She came out of depression. She got a 6-figure paying job. Things were really looking good.
After 6 months of working long hours, she decides it's time to live it up with her friends on a girls' trip to Sin City.
Kara was excited. She hadn't been anywhere for a while, and this was her time to finally let loose.
But on her first night out on the town, she gets more than she bargains for when 26-year-old stunner Emmanuel Williams notices her from across the bar.
Here's this 6-foot-tall black man, very handsome, attractive, and charming. Just knocks her off her feet.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. She wasn't looking for love. She was there to just have a good time with some friends.
The two talk for hours, spilling out their life stories to each other.
She knew that he was a Marine. She knew that he was from California, and he told her that he was a professional gambler. The way he presented himself, Kara thought he made good money doing that. They were together nonstop from that point. By the time they left Vegas, Kara was in love.
Over the next 2 months, the lovebirds jet back and forth between Alabama and California and talk on the phone, keeping their romance alive and growing.
He seemed like he was a good guy. He seemed like he was crazy about her.
She was very happy with him. She felt fulfilled. She felt that she found somebody who needed her.
Distance is the only thing that stands in their way. But when her company offers her an opportunity to relocate to Tampa, Florida, she sees this as their chance to make a fresh start together.
Kara knew he was the one, and she wanted to start a family with him.
I think they felt like that was a neutral place to go.
Her new boyfriend couldn't be happier with the move, but being a professional gambler in Tampa isn't quite as lucrative as the Vegas Strip.
Kara tried everything she could do to make sure that their life together was wonderful in Tampa. They had a beautiful condo, and they were living the good life.
And when the once successful salesgirl finds herself falling behind in the highly competitive Tampa sales office, the good life turns sour.
This region was different. The managerial style was very different. The quotas were different. She found herself not excelling like she was before.
A few months after moving in together, she's forced to resign from her job after being unable to kick up her sales.
The bills were stacking up for Kara and for Emmanuel. He's not bringing home any money. There's a lot of pressure to make ends meet.
Right away, she lands a job as a part-time customer service rep at a bank. But it's a big pay cut, and Emmanuel is spending more time at the casino.
When she first met him, she knew that he was a professional gambler, but she didn't know that this was an addiction, something that had totally consumed him and controlled him.
Just when their financial stress starts weighing down their relationship, a surprise brings them closer together. The couple finds out they're pregnant.
Kara was excited about being pregnant. She thought, this is going to be that piece that fixes everything.
They decided to get married. They went down to the courthouse to make it official, and that was supposed to be the beginning of what was supposed to be a great life together.
But when the newlyweds arrive home from the courthouse, reality hits them harder than ever.
It was a really exciting time because they were expecting their first baby together. But at the same time, it was a really dark time for them because they weren't sure how they were going to afford this baby.
For Emmanuel, that was the green light to step it up with the gambling.
Despite her concern for their child's welfare, she keeps their troubles to herself.
Kara wanted to contact her parents for money. Emmanuel is against that. He felt that it was an insult to his manhood.
They would be willing to help us.
No, Kara. She never mentioned that there was ever any money issues. She wasn't letting on that there was trouble between her and Emmanuel. We had zero clue of the gambling, zero.
Nearly 9 months into the pregnancy, his gambling gets them further into debt.
She tried to get him to move away from that lifestyle, to focus on family, wanting him at home, spending time with her, preparing for the new baby, and was just unable to do so.
Emmanuel knew that time was running out. They had to make a change in their financial situation. Kara was about to go on maternity leave, and there'd be no money coming in.
Oh, let me get this for you.
Then, 1 week before the baby is due, he finds himself captivated by a true crime documentary.
Hey, look, I was wondering, I got this idea, right?
This show is about a man who got away with robbing some banks. And so that sparked some interest with Emmanuel because of their financial situation.
Never one to shy away from risk, He approaches his wife that evening when she returns home from work.
So Emmanuel suggested to Kara, why don't we go and rob some banks?
Are you kidding?
Look, it'll just be one time.
After she realized it wasn't a joke, she was blown away. She'd never committed any crimes in the past. She didn't even have any tickets.
Kara was 9 months pregnant, and we're talking about hormones flowing. She just wants to have her partner around and have her family unit remain whole.
She had to make a decision. Either I align with what he's going to do in hopes that I can save him and save my family, or I don't.
We won't get caught?
No.
She loved him and she wanted to please him, even though she knew it was wrong.
Sure, I just...
Kara quickly realized that Emmanuel was going to do this with or without her, and perhaps her getting involved in this bank robbery was a way to let him know that he was not alone in doing this.
Just 2 days later, early in the morning, Kara drives her husband to a bank just 2 miles from where they live. He instructs her to wait in the car as the getaway driver, ready to step on the gas when he returns.
Emmanuel got out. He has on this disguise, a wig, the glasses.
Emmanuel just walked into the bank like any other customer and approached the teller like there was nothing going on.
He slides the teller the note. It says, "Give me all your money, and I have a gun."
Outside, Kara can't wait for this terrifying moment to end.
She doesn't know if the police is going to intercept them. She doesn't know if they're going to get arrested on the spot. On top of that, she's 9 months pregnant, so she could actually go into labor at any time, and the stress could have possibly brought on the delivery at a time like that.
But she's about to discover that once a gambler, always a gambler.
This is not enough. Put on the street, we're going to the next bank, I see.
And this time, he's betting with their lives. In Tampa, Florida, expectant mother Kara Williams is persuaded by her husband Emmanuel that the answer to their money problems is to rob a bank.
Kara loved Emmanuel very, very much, and she wanted to do anything and everything she could in her power to save him, to save their marriage. And she thought, if we just get through this one thing, everything will be fine.
This is a woman who's 9 months pregnant, about to give birth at any minute now. And instead of being at home, having her feet up, planning the birth of her first child, she's in a getaway car.
As Kara nervously waits in the car with her foot hovering over the gas pedal, Emmanuel is face to face with a bank teller, where he intends to walk away with thousands in cash.
Emmanuel just very slowly and discreetly handed the teller the note. Now, he didn't have a gun with him, but that note said he had a gun, and they took him seriously.
Teller couldn't find an envelope, so she handed him cash. And he took that, put it in his pocket, and fled the bank.
Go, 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 go,
A
go.
rush of adrenaline surges through the couple as they make the 10-minute drive home with $7,500 and no one on their tail. Once reality sets in, her adrenaline turns to remorse, but Emmanuel has an all too familiar glow.
Kara had seen that sparkle in his eye, or that thrill in his face, and she'd seen it before when he was gambling.
Kara slowly started to realize it wasn't just about the money. This could be going in a really bad direction.
You could hear a pin drop as they hide the 7 G's in a drawer. Emmanuel is already thinking about the next time, and Kara is praying it won't come.
Going into the bank now was substituting the payout from the casino. He's enjoying that high of winning.
In the meantime, local investigators already have a lead on their thief.
Police were called immediately, and they've had access to the surveillance tape, which clearly showed Emmanuel going into this bank with his wig and these glasses. So now the hunt is on, looking for the perpetrators of this bank robbery.
The cameras don't capture the getaway car. And since Emmanuel has no criminal record, none of the mugshots from their list of usual suspects are matching his description. 10 days later, all of the couple's problems momentarily disappear when Kara gives birth to a healthy baby girl.
Their financial worries were better. They were able to buy everything they needed for the baby, and she felt like this was the true beginning of the family that she always wanted.
Until 3 weeks into her unpaid maternity leave, their financial problems return.
The money's gone. They've absorbed it with the bills, Emmanuel's gambling habit. So Kara decided to go back to work to bring in some more income and get a steady flow of some money coming back in.
But that's not enough for the high roller, whose thirst for action is catching up to him.
Kara wasn't making a lot. She was only working part-time. Emmanuel made the decision to rob yet another bank. He didn't talk about it with Kara, didn't discuss it. He made the decision, told her what to do, and she did it.
4 weeks after their first heist, the new parents drop their daughter off at daycare and drive 12 miles outside of Tampa to a town called Brandon.
The second time, it's a repeat. Kara drove the getaway car. Emmanuel got out, wore the costume. He went in, slipped the teller a note once again.
But in this instance, the teller told him that she could only get $1,000 at a time. So instead of a big payout, he only walked away with $2,000.
He is furious, but he quickly flees with the measly take.
First robbery, they made out with $7,500. This time, only $2,000. So what do gamblers do? They see if they can top the last win.
We gotta hit another bank right now.
What, are you kidding me?
No, this is not enough. This is not worth the risk.
He brazenly tells Kara to drive 3 miles down the road to a different bank, where he's determined to hit it big.
And at that next bank, that wasn't the big payoff that he wanted either. He only got about $1,100. Emmanuel was mad. He was angry. He wanted more.
And he's determined to get more. Over the next 8 months, they pull off 10 more robberies, netting a total of $33,000 in additional cash.
She was afraid that if she didn't do this, he'd become so dysfunctional that he couldn't be a father and that the family unit could not function in any way.
The two might be flying under the radar for the moment, but authorities are hot on their heels connecting the bank robberies and in hot pursuit, trying to identify them.
Emmanuel knew that things were getting too hot in Florida, and it was time to leave.
The next time, after dropping their daughter off at a friend's house, they drive 5 hours toward the state line with the plan to stop at the first town they hit in Alabama. Once they arrive in Dothan, Emmanuel gives Kara the shock of her life.
Listen to me very carefully, okay? And I know you're scared. You can do this.
Okay, I can do this.
You can do this.
He felt it was her turn now. Emmanuel wanted Kara to go into the bank and rob it.
He did not want to be the only one to take accountability.
After putting on glasses and a wig from their stash, Kara gets out of the car.
When Kara went into the bank, she was terrified. Her heart was beating fast. She didn't think she could go through with it.
And all the money in the world can't prepare her for what she's about to face.
It was her way of proving to Emmanuel that she loved him, but everything spiraled out of control.
That was probably the absolute worst day of my life when I got the phone call.
Robbing banks doesn't come as easily for Kara as it did for her husband.
She had been in 4 separate banks and would keep coming back to the car and telling him she couldn't do it. And he was on her really, really hard, putting a lot of pressure on her to go in and rob a bank.
Tampa, Florida couple Kara and Emmanuel Williams have been robbing banks for nearly a year. Up until now, Kara's waited in the getaway car while Emmanuel held the place up. But this time, her man wants her to take the lead.
You can do this.
Okay, I can do this.
You can do this.
He wanted Kara's hands dirty by going in and robbing a bank.
She knew she could lose her life, she could lose her liberty, she could lose her child. But in her eyes, she had so much more to gain, and that was the love and admiration of Emmanuel.
As she nervously walks into the bank, hidden under a disguise, she knows there's no turning back.
She gave the note to the teller that says, "This is a robbery, I have a gun, hundreds, 50s, and 20s.
They handed her $3,000, and she walked out of that bank just like Emmanuel had done before.
Pinching themselves, it seems once again they've made it out without being caught by the police. And Emmanuel couldn't be more proud of his girl.
She wanted to prove to him how much she loved him. This time, she succeeded.
But her gambler isn't finished playing their high-stakes game. Dead set on making the trip worthwhile, and after a quick call to their child sitter, he decides to take a detour 180 miles east to Gulf Shores, Alabama, where they spend a couple of days choosing their next target.
Emmanuel wasn't satisfied with the bank robbery that Kara had just done. So Emmanuel went into another bank in Alabama and got close to $7,500.
As they pull off their 15th bank robbery without a hitch, the duo immediately hit the road home, back to Tampa with a total of 10 grand in their bag. They are completely unaware that their luck has just run out in Florida. The FBI and local authorities are working around the clock to identify them.
In almost all of the robberies, a witness had seen a black car being used as the getaway vehicle.
But they still need a license plate number and a name. Then, on a hunch, law enforcement gather the surveillance footage from a toll road near their most recent Florida robbery. After scanning hundreds of cars going in and out of the area, immediately following their escape, investigators land their first big break in the case.
They were able to determine that this particular black car had went through the toll, and at that point, they thought they found their car.
And the plate number that went with it. DMV records indicate the black vehicle is registered to a Kara Williams.
They determined that her husband was Emmanuel Williams. And from there, they saw that he matched the description given by the various witnesses at the banks.
A call to their mobile carrier was the final nail in the coffin.
Their cell phone records placed them near the vicinity of these crimes, and now they have enough evidence to make an arrest.
Just as the couple pull into their driveway, after the long road trip back from Alabama, the authorities swoop in. They are arrested in front of their home, putting their 11-month escapade to an end.
When I got the phone call from Kara, Kara was hysterical. She said, "I've done something terrible." She robbed a bank. It's insanity. And my heart is broken, and my daughter's going to jail.
Faced with federal robbery charges, they both plead guilty. Because neither one of them had a criminal record, Kara is sentenced to 5 years in a federal prison, and Emmanuel is sentenced to 5 years and 10 months in prison.
There was a perfect storm here, falling in love with Emmanuel, his gambling addiction, and now his bank robbing addiction. So this was so overwhelming to her. I believe that she just surrendered to the circumstances.
Over halfway through her 5-year sentence, she can't wait for the day that she's back in her daughter's life.
Losing out on just even the first 5 years of her child's life is still a significant loss. And I know that that is something that was very difficult for her.
Kara feels that because of her own experiences, that she is going to be able to make sure that her daughter never has to go through this, that she'll be a strong woman just standing on her own 2 feet.
We have her child, and she's doing great. That's the biggest thing for Kara when she gets back, is to be a mom, restore that relationship.
ভাবিলে কাখলে মুরাহানা মাজতে বুকুৰে মাজতে এ লা 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 হে লা 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 নীলাকৈ আকাশত ৰঙা নীলা মৰম কিনো দিলা পলকতে আহি মোৰ ৰঙা নীলা এটিছিলা উৰি উৰি যাই মৰম বাহে তোলা ৰঙা হে বুকু ৰঙা তোমাক পাবলে জানো তুমি মোৰ জীৱনৰ জুৰিয়া এ লা 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 হে লা 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 নীলাকৈ আকাশত ডাৱৰে আৱৰিলে ইমান মৰম জাগে মন তোমাক পাবলে তোমাক পাবলে তোমাক পাবলে কাষলে মোৰ আহানা দুচকুলে মোৰ চোৱানা আকোৱালি মোক লোৱানা বুকুৰে মাজতে এ লা 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 লা